We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best job.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 439 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
The growing interest in Nigeria's lithium reserves comes as countries worldwide scramble to secure supplies of the mineral, which is essential for powering the green energy revolution. In this special report by Bayo Olaoye, the need to harness this resource for growth and development is examined, with the evolution of electric vehicles and renewable energy storage systems. Lithium is a key component in the production of batteries for electric vehicles and renewable energy storage systems, and Nigeria is positioning itself to become a major player in the global lithium market. Nigeria's vast lithium reserves, valued over $34 billion, is no doubt attracting world attention, while lithium factories are springing up in different parts of Nigeria already. The attention of the international mining industry is also focused on lithium because it is critical raw material for the production of solar panels and electric vehicles. Analysts predict that global lithium market could grow robustly over the next decade, driven by the rapid adoption of electric vehicles and renewable energy technologies. Data from a global future market insight showed that the lithium mining industry has emerged as a cornerstone of the clean energy transition, driven by the skyrocketing demand for lithium-ion batteries. The surge in lithium demand is driven largely by the electric vehicles market, which accounted for over 70% of the global lithium consumption in 2024, according to an Iranian-based research firm. with countries such as the United States, China, and members of the European Union pushing for next zero emission by mid-century. Lithium demand is expected to escalate further. The federal government, indeed, the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, should intensify efforts geared at renewing and resuscitating the viable lithium industry in the country to its full potential. As Nigeria diversifies its economy into other sectors, the lithium industry offers hope and expectation that this sector would earn more revenue for the country. Nigeria should not just watch with folded arms, but must strive with the political will to develop and strengthen the country's vast lithium reserves.
Imagine a world without the roar of a lion, the flight of an eagle, or the rhythmic dance of ocean waves teeming with life. Wildlife is more than just the animals, their natural habitat. It is the lifeblood of our ecosystems, shaping the environment and maintaining nature's delicate balance. Yet, with each passing year, human activities threaten this balance. Deforestation, habitat destruction, pollution, and climate change are pushing many species to the brink of extinction. That is why World Wildlife Day is marked on every March 3rd, a global call to action to protect and preserve the rich biodiversity that sustains life on Earth. It is a reminder that wildlife is not just about the animals, it is about us, our survival, our food, our medicine, our future. Wildlife Conservation Finance, investing in people and planet, shines on a spotlight the urgent need for sustainable funding to protect ecosystems. It highlights the role of financial investment in safeguarding both wildlife and human livelihoods, because when we invest in nature, we invest in ourselves. From individuals to policymakers, businesses to conservationists, every tree saved, every habitat protected, and every species conserved is a step towards securing a healthier planet for future generations. As humans, let's act before it's too late. The fate of wildlife is in our hands, and in saving them, we just might be saving ourselves. Chike Okolo, Souq News Television.
In Africa, and there's one man who has consistently been a household name and index of reference in the business arena. The name Aliko Dangote apparently stands tall. The Africa's richest man clearly benchmarks success, wealth, and prosperity. His unofficial love and passion for business are quite phenomenal. These can be traced to his background. Born in April 10, 1957 to Maria Sanusi Dantata and Mohammed Dangote, his maternal ancestors were prosperous caravan traders under British colonial rule, and his grandfather, Alhaji Sanusi Dantata, was a commodity trader. Dangote's grandfather was heavily involved in his upbringing and helped ignite his entrepreneurial spirit. For Dangote, one would ever assume his wealth was handed out or easily channeled, being an offspring of Dantata, or his success didn't come through daydreaming. Dangote complemented inherited fortune with deliberate hard work and innovation to pave his way to the top. Those who knew Dangote while growing up would not be surprised at his outstanding success. At age 8, Dangote uses pocket money to buy sweets, which he and others sell for a profit. Everything big in life starts from little. Taking a clue from these, Dangote, from a seed loan of 500,000 obtained from his uncle, started business, which he traded commodities and business supplies, primarily cement. By 1981, his firm was successful that he had incorporated other businesses and established the Dangote Group. His empire extended to foodstuffs, including sugar, salt, wheat, cement, haulage, and other business concerns. Among his holdings were Dangote Industries, Dangote Bale Nigeria, Dangote Cement PLC, Benue Cement Company PLC, Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC, Dangote Flour Mills, and Nascent Ally Industries PLC. In addition to his holdings in Nigeria, the Dangote Group has operations in several other African countries. With these giant strides in the business arena, Dangote will forever be grateful to his grandfather for giving him wings to fly. According to Forbes, an American business magazine, Dangote remains the richest man in Africa with an estimated fortune of $13.9 billion. Dangote is one Nigeria, highly decorated with honors as well. His urine service and huge investment also got him both local and international recognitions. Like the Guardian Man of the Year in 2015, he won the 2016 African Business Leader Award organized by the African American Institute. Dangote was cited as one of the top most influential Africans by the New African magazine in 2015, 2017, 2018, and 2019. He was recently conferred with the prestigious award of the National Order of the Lion by the President of Senegal. When it comes to breaking jinx, Dangote has it in full measures. He took his pioneering and jinx-breaking adventure to another dimension with the unveiling of the $20 billion refinery, widely adjured as the largest single-train petrochemical refinery in the world. The refinery has the total capacity of 650,000 barrels of crude oil per day and is expected to earn as much as $21 billion in annual income. Situated on 2,500 hectares site at the Lekki Free Trade Zone, Lagos, it is supplied with crude oil by the largest subsea pipeline infrastructure in the world. When fully in operation, the refinery will provide 135,000 permanent jobs in the region. When it comes to family life, Dangote seems to, however, prefer maintaining a low profile. He got married to Zainab in 1977 but divorced at an unknown date. He was later married to Maria Mohammed Rufai. Dangote has 3 daughters named Halima, Maria, Fatima, and he also adopted a son named Abdurrahman. Dangote is one grounded authority that combines real intelligence with self-effacing demeanor, a persona that naturally makes kindness. Like an eagle, Dangote's foresight and unusual business acumen make him a rare to come by. Though he owns chains of business in Nigeria and across Africa, the quest by this uncommon risk taker to conquer more business territories may not wane anytime soon.
Augmented reality (AR) is a technology that merges computer-generated images with the user's real-world view, creating a composite experience. This interactive experience integrates various sensory modalities, such as things you can see, hear, and even feel, making the experience interactive and immersive. In recent years, the emergence of this transformative technology has seamlessly integrated digital and physical realms. This groundbreaking innovation relies on specialized hardware like smartphones and smart glasses equipped with cameras and sensors, AR software, and Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core. Then creates immersive experiences by overlaying virtual content onto the user's real-world environment. AR software such as Apple's AR Kit and Google's AR Core, then creates immersive experiences by overlaying virtual content onto the user's real-world environment. AR's applications span diverse industries from gaming to education, healthcare, retail, and manufacturing. In education, AR enhances learning through interactive and dynamic experiences, while in healthcare, it aids surgical planning and medical training. Retail experiences are transformed as AR enables customers to virtually try on products and visualize furniture in their homes. Despite its potential, AR faces challenges such as technical advancements and user privacy concerns. Overcoming these hurdles will unlock even more seamless and immersive AR experiences, making it an integral part of our daily lives. As technology progresses, the horizon for AR broadens, promising a future where our interactions with the world are richer and more interconnected. Augmented reality is not just a trend, it's a revolution shaping the way we live, learn, and work. Goma Fortune, Souq News.
Good morning. Welcome to the Front Burners and Souq News TV. I am Blessing Aichi. Each time that you make it a point of duty to tune in and join the show, I am most grateful, as well as my co-anchors, that you want to be part of making change. Dr. Delso Samanze and Priya Krumala, the man you've missed for some days, is back on the show. Doc, good morning, sir.
Blessing, good morning, Priya, good Nigeria out there.
Priya, I heard you went to the moon.
No, I actually didn't go to the moon. I've not met Elon Musk yet. But I want to say to Doc, it's a purple morning to you.
It looks regal.
Yes.
Are you about to be crowned?
Well, maybe after the show.
Okay, that would be nice. All right, this is the Front Burners, where we ignite conversations that will lead to change in development, change in society, in every aspect of life. We have segments on the show. The first is something you don't want to miss with Swift Aderito. Let's get over now to her. She's waiting. Seems like she can't wait to dish out the goodies she has for you. Hello, Swift.
Hi, Blessing. Good morning. As usual, there's something I always want to steal. It's your earrings this morning. You look absolutely gorgeous, by the way. Did you wake up like this?
Yeah, you were born like this.
Priya, how have you been? I've missed you.
Oh, great. Too.
And of course, to the handsome doctor, another fantastic tie. Okay. One of my favorite. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm very good.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa. Of course, my name is Swift Aderito, and this is something you don't want to miss. They say ensure you are dogged, and that means you have to be determined to follow through to achieve your goal. So ensure we follow through to achieve our goals today. Basically, this segment of the show is telling you the news in a toned-down manner, so let's jump right into it. The first news I have for you is they say false information travels faster than the speed of light, and this is why the Nigerian Petroleum Company, NLPCL, has come out on Wednesday to say that it was a minor fire incident recorded at the Port Harcourt Refinery Company, and that immediately was put out and not an explosion. The NLPCL spokesman Olufemi Sonye, in a statement, said reports of an explosion rocking the refinery was false. He said after the minor incident, the plant remains operational and continues to produce refined petroleum products. We are happy the development was nothing so serious, because our refinery means a lot to us. And of course, story two, they say that when two elephants fight, it's the grasses and the trees around that suffer. Dangote Refinery and NNPC is saying that they are going to be suspending the sale of petroleum crude because of the halt in the Naira deal with NNPC. Dangote Refinery is saying that following the failure of the federal government to renew the crude for Naira deal, the company that, or the agreement they had with NNPC refinery. The refinery in a statement says, "We wish to inform you that Dangote Petroleum Refinery has temporarily halted the sale of petroleum products in Naira. This decision is necessary to avoid a mismatch between our sale products and our crude oil and purchase obligations, which are currently in US dollars. To date, our sales of petroleum products in Naira have exceeded the value of Naira-denominated crude we have received. As a result, we must temporarily adjust our sales currently to align with our current procurement currency." They also claim that their attention has been drawn to reports on the internet claiming that they stopped loading due to an incident of ticketing fraud. And they said this is malicious falsehood and our systems are robust and we have no fraud issues. They came out to reassure Nigerians that they are committed to serving the Nigerian market efficiently, and as soon as they receive allocation of Naira to crude, they would promptly resume petroleum product sale in Nigeria. We hope that this is resolved quickly because we've been enjoying a seamless petroleum fuel-less scarcity in the market. Of course, my final story says jubilation hits the streets as free akara is being shared as the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN, has restored normal bulk power supply to ECO and Ikeja electric distribution companies, enabling them to resume full electricity distribution to their customers in Lagos State. This was confirmed in a statement signed by Ndidi Umba, the General Manager of the Public Affairs of TCN, on Tuesday. According to the statement, the restoration was made possible following the successful completion of repair works on the Section 330 kVA transmission line between towers 420 and 422 of the Oshogbo Omotosho transmission. Last week, TNCN attributed the drop in bulk power supply within ECO and Ikeja franchise areas to the transmission cuts that occurred on the towers 420 and 422 on the Omotosho Ikeja West transmission on Saturday, March 2025. Ndidi Umba said that the temporary drop in bulk power supply has caused significant load shedding within ECO and Ikeja franchises. We, the Association of Concerned Nigerians, we're excited that power is back, and this has been our prayers. Now, my last words for you all, before I run off, I want to tell you that to create a new world, you need to be resolved in believing in yourself. So believe in yourselves and let's create the new world and make Nigeria better. My name is Swift Aderito, and don't forget, as I'm going, I'm not leaving you. I'm turning you over to the capable hands of the front burner team. Do not go anywhere. See you on the top.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
At the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC, we are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
In Africa, and there's one man who has consistently been a household name and index of reference in the business arena. The name Aliko Dangote apparently stands tall. The Africa's richest man clearly benchmarks success, wealth, and prosperity. Dangote's unofficial love and passion for business are quite phenomenal. These can be traced to his background. Born in April 10, 1957 to Maria Sanusi Dantata and Mohammed Dangote, his maternal ancestors were prosperous caravan traders under British colonial rule, and his grandfather, Alhaji Sanusi Dantata, was a commodity trader. Dangote's grandfather was heavily involved in his upbringing and helped ignite his entrepreneurial spirit. For Dangote, one would ever assume his wealth was handed out or easily channeled, being an offspring of Dantata, but his success didn't come through daydreaming. Dangote complemented inherited fortune with deliberate hard work and innovation to pave his way to the top. Those who knew Dangote while growing up would not be surprised at his outstanding success. At age 8, Dangote uses pocket money to buy sweets, which he and others sell for a profit. Everything big in life starts from little. Taking a clue from this, Dangote, from a seed loan of 500,000 obtained from his uncle, started business, which he traded commodities and business supplies, primarily cement. By 1981, his firm was successful that he had incorporated other businesses and established the Dangote Group. His empire extended to foodstuffs, including sugar, salt, wheat, cement, haulage, and other business concerns. Among his holdings were Dangote Industries, Dangote Bale Nigeria, Dangote Cement PLC, Benue Cement Company PLC, Dangote Sugar Refinery PLC, Dangote Flour Mills, and Nascent Ally Industries PLC. In addition to his holdings in Nigeria, the Dangote Group has operations in several other African countries. With these giant strides in the business arena, Dangote will forever be grateful to his grandfather for giving him wings to fly. According to
Many thanks for staying tuned to the front burners. This is the news analysis segment. Let's take a look at some stories. Well, the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NATI, says the Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAC, disbursed 15.26 trillion naira to the federal, state, and local governments in 2024. NATI attributed the surge to the federal government's fiscal reform policies, particularly the removal of petrol subsidy and foreign exchange rate adjustments, which the agency says has had significant impact on oil revenue remittances. So, Presenting the Native FAC Quarterly Review on Tuesday, Ojo Bunaya, the agency's executive secretary, said the analysis was carried out in the context of significant fiscal reforms that transformed the revenue landscape, with a particular focus on the effect of subsidy removal on both national and sub-national finances. But the report's objective is to assess the sustainability of the federal and state governments borrowing to fund their projects and programs, as well as the implications of natural resource dependence, particularly for states benefiting from the 13% derivation from oil and gas. First of all, one thing about the report is that revenue has increased. So what was shared for 2024, 15.26 trillion naira among federal, state, and local governments. Quite a lot improvement in revenue generation for Nigeria. And the Secretary of Native FAC says that this is attributed to the fiscal reforms that the president has made. First of all, the removal of oil subsidy, and then the reforms that have happened regarding exchange rate. And then they're assessing the sustainability of states' borrowing and the dependence of on natural resource by those states that are receiving 30% derivation. It's good news that revenue has improved, but I think the first question that every Nigerian wants to ask is, since revenue improved, what projects now are we using the revenue for? You know, there was a time there was windfall, and so we're told that even our reserve increased, but within that period of the windfall, we didn't really see significant progress that was made in infrastructure and development. Now revenue has improved. What are we doing with it, Doc?
Well, I think there are some few things that needs to excite Nigerians, and that is also looking at it, looking at the trend analysis, that if in 2022 you generated about 9 trillion, and in 2023 you did 10 trillion, and now in 2024 you are doing 15 trillion. It means that a lot has actually happened. And of course, the credit goes to Mr. President, just as Nate has said, that these are all arising from the various reforms that the government has put in place within this period of time, especially the floating of the naira, and then, of course, the removal of the subsidy to petrol. Now, that said, it's able to look at the details and the data itself that Native presented. Now, if you look at it, you find that state earning between 2023 and 2024 increased significantly by 66%.
62.
Okay, 62%. Then the local government by over 40%. Federal government about 24% in terms of increase from the previous year. Now you also see that the states had earned more than the federation itself, with the states earning over 5.8 trillion and the federation earning 4.9 trillion, and the local government earning about 3 trillion. Now, when you put this figure together between the states and local government, you find that bulk of the nation money actually is in the subnational. And the president has been saying this for quite a time. And many of us as Nigerians, all we look at is Abuja, because we think that all the money is in Abuja, but the money is actually in the states. The question is, what significant changes are we seeing happening in the states and at the local governments, especially with this increase? And I think this is where Nigerians need to actually turn their attention to both the states and the local government to see what are we doing with these resources that is flowing in. Now, if you even put the figure a little, stretch it a little further, you see top states earning between Lagos, Delta, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom. So much money has gone into this place. Delta is even occupying a second position, 450 billion from Federation account. Can we see in Delta State how this money is touching the life of the average individual? Because what we see happen in the state is that feuds, crisis, party politics tend to overshadow what comes to them. Because after all, nobody is abusing state governor for not doing well. All the insults and the abuse goes to Mr. President, who makes life very difficult for the people. And I think this is where people must begin to open their eyes and look at what we're doing with the resource that's coming to the states and the local governments.
Yes, when we look at the way the money is being shared and the percentages that goes to each tier of government, so that's why a program like this is very good, because it's an eye-opener for a lot of Nigerians who perhaps may not even be aware of who gets what or what tier of government gets what. The assumption for a lot of Nigerians is that because it's federal government and because the center controls most areas and has more powers for a lot of areas, so the center has more money. And so they believe it's the responsibility of the center to make sure that there's development. But like you asked the question, what are the states doing? For the states that are receiving 13% derivation, apart from a few of them, that when you visit those states, you could see one project here, maybe River State, Delta State, some part of Delta State, and it also depends on the administration, because some administration have been able to do well with the derivation, and you can say, yes, this is an oil-producing state. If you go to some other states, like Ondo states, and they tell you this is an oil-producing state that receives 13% derivation, if you go to a place like Bayelsa, and even taking a look at all of these states, with the amount of money that they receive, you just want to look at it as it's almost like free money at the end of the day. Now, when we're talking about Lagos State, it sometimes seems like maybe Lagos State has certain advantages that other states don't have. But the reality of the matter is that Lagos State created their advantage. This is an advantage that nature bestowed on these states that they should have been able to use to significantly improve lives of people. But because the state's governors understand that there is a knowledge deficit, the people don't really understand that states are receiving lots of money and that states also have a crucial role to play when it comes to development. So everybody calls or tries to hold the federal accountable, and they don't bother about the states. Because even at the state level, sometimes you also find that the governors are pointing the attention of the people to the federal just to deflect away from them. When allocations are not received, you hear them complain. When revenue is short, you hear them complain. Now that revenue has increased, they have not come out to say, we are receiving more money, so now we can do much more. So it's more like people capitalizing on the ignorance of others to just not attend to their duty as it should be. And that's why we do not have the demand for accountability much from the states and even the local government. Apart from certain states where you find the local government functional, if you travel to many states in Nigeria and you visit local government, sometimes you tend to think that it's just a place that nobody comes to, because many of the offices are shut. You don't even find workers there. If you have a local government job, it's a free job. Go do your private business. Once in a while, come to the office, except for a few states and few local governments in those states. So it's because over time, people have been thinking that the federal government has more money, so therefore, more responsibility falls on the federal government to ensure that there is infrastructure development and there is also development of other sectors. But if this information now comes to the consciousness of Nigerians and people begin to change their minds to say, if the state governments are receiving much money, to whom much is given, much also should be expected.
Okay, I'm not surprised that this is the direction that this conversation will go. And first of all, truth to be said, it's high time we begin to, tug at the garment of the state government. Now look, where are you taking the people of your state? If you look at the structure of Nigeria very well, everybody waits for the budget of the federal government, sometimes including state governments, sometimes including, most especially private investors. They are waiting for the budget of the federal government. They want to know what ministry, department, or agency is, going away with a larger chunk of the budget for 2 consecutive years. Now it has been the Nigerian military, though the education and health sector too has been coming in, weighing in recently, but it has not met the benchmark of the World Health Organization and the Global Education Program by the WHO and the United Nations. So, for the state, on whose table does the buck fall to hold the government of the state responsible? We have institutional roles that are to be played by the House of Assembly of the state. We also have individual roles or civil society organization roles that are to be played in those specific states. So let's even analyze the responsibilities of these persons that were to even hold the state to account. Apart from Kano state government that has a replication of the Economics and Financial Crimes Commission's body at the state level, I don't think there is any other state in Nigeria that has that, not even Lagos, to hold the government of the state accountable. Corruption, when it comes to activities of misappropriating public funds. Even though we have an argument that, it belongs to the state government, so it cannot fight against the state government that appointed the heads of those investigating agencies at the state level. However, they prosecute other state governors who had left. I'm talking about Kano, because the Ganduje used that to prosecute the former CBN governor Lamido, Sanusi Lamido. So, which of the states in Nigeria has a replication of EFCC at the state level? If we look at institutional responsibilities, let's even come to the House of Assembly of the state. Is it the House of Assembly of the state in Nigerian politics that has almost 90% of the legislators in the House belonging to the same political party, as if no other political party exists in the state? Or is it the local... And
it's fast becoming a trend.
Yeah, no, it is not even a trend. Is it the local government authorities that will will now challenge the authority of the state governors? I remember vividly during the administration of Ralph Aregbesola, a local government chairman challenged him about the disbursement of funds to local government, challenged the state government in Osun State. And that was the last we heard about it. Recently in Ogun State too. That is the current chief executive of the state too is there. A local government chairman challenged his authority by way of disbursing the local government funds to different local governments and claimed that he has not received for a specified period of time allocation to that local government, and that what even the amount even they receive is not equivalent when we add it together with the totality of the local government that exists in the state. There is no correlation. When they made those complaints, they left them to the wolves. They were severely dealt with, and that became the end of those local government. In fact, even the councillors of those local government had to sit to make sure they impeach the local government chairman. So that's a conspiracy. There is an internal, both institutional conspiracy to fight against the eagle eyes of the institution and of the people to hold the state governors to account. And by way of the constitution, they have some sort of this power to make sure that they beat down every opposition that comes. Unlike the federal government, where opposition political parties will open their mouth to speak And to an extent, they will speak to the extent that there are a few of them, even in parliament, that could speak to that purpose. Or civil society organizations can even come up. I know you may not like the role that Souq plays, but Souq will continue to speak up too.
But apart from Souq, there are other civil society
yes,
organizations and they're present as well
they
in
don't,
the States.
They don't have that, because look at the issue, even at the federal level. I know we are focusing on the state right now. Even some of the allegations that Souq has put out against some administrations, even the past administration and the current administrations, where has it led to? Are we saying they don't have the right to hold the government to account? But no, it's not going anywhere. So what about the people of the state, or the political party in opposition of those particular states, most especially in Delta states or the oil-producing states, including the 13% derivation or derivative allocation that they get? What do they do with it? What do they do with it?
You see, but
we can hardly find this.
This is more ideal than what you find on the table. And I think this is the conversation that we must all be having. Yesterday I was telling Blessing what in political science they call political hierarchy. It means that a class suicide has happened to somebody who used to be among the governing elite, and then decide to leave the governing elite to go and join people who are the common men, and then they can come and drive change. Now, what is actually happening, and I think those are the conversations that is taking us or keeping us where we were. Professor Claudake died in 1996, and he has written substantially on this issue, how politics have made, what they call it, politics or Nigeria, and indeed Africa, underdeveloped. Let me give you one example from my state. Yesterday it was reported in Edo State, all the 18 local government chairmen of what come to APC.
That is the point. You know what Priya was talking about? What came to mind?
So what do you think is happening? Now, this is the reality. 2 days ago, while we're still battling with all the challenges within River State, and talking about the demolition of the State House of Assembly, taking 4 members of House of Assembly to Government House to read budget one day, pass it the same day, and sign into the law the same day. Because somebody has done it before, Edo State government did the same when proclamation was issued, and out of an assembly of 24 people, 10 people became the majority.
Overnight.
And for 4 years, the 14 were locked out, even though they were voted for by their people. And the courts in Nigeria sustained it that, proclamation can only be issued once, irrespective of the condition under which the proclamation is given. Now, this is the political reality in Nigeria. And I think these are issues that, of course, should, see, because what we have is that those people you call civil society organizations, and I think for a very long time I've lost faith in a lot of them, and I don't believe in what they are doing, because all they do is, just like I said yesterday on this table, is to shout very loud so that they can be recognized and appointed into government, and as soon as they start to lick the salt, the goat's mouth is shut, he can't cry again. Now, these are the problem, and this is what is facing us, because we are not real to ourselves. That reality to ourselves is what it is. When Buhari issued an executive order that local government money should be paid straight to the local government, even the local government went to court. So, because one of the things that we are talking about here is the fact that we're talking about fiscal federalism, that we have a 3-tier regime where you have a federal, you have a state, you have a local government. And everywhere I have gone, and I've done papers on all these issues, and I have argued that, you see, before you can actually be asking for more money, let us even see you responsible with the little you are having.
So right now.
So when you are talking about, let state control resource. Yes, let's take control resource. But even the one that is coming right now, that is within them, what are they doing with it? Now, when we are not asking the right question as a people, and then we sentimentalize issues on the basis of, okay, maybe because I like this person's face and I hate this person's face, you see, we will remain where we are. 3 trillion, 3.7 trillion in the 774 local governments in Nigeria. That fees primary health care for 1 year. And so what have we seen? Okay. And when people are shouting, hunger, 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 the name that you hear is Tinubu. That's what it is. Look at Lagos, for example.
He's the main man. So does he also have a role to play here? Because since everyone is calling Tinubu, they're calling the president. What is the role of the federal government in also ensuring the states are accountable? We understand that, yes, the state has a great level of independence, but they're also, it's a sub-national government. It is under the national government. What role does the federal have to play in this? Is the federal that allocates?
Well, the federal government had to respect the Constitution. Yes, there are some provisions that, for example, within the procurement act, that says that if states receive money from the federation account, those money, what they are spent for, EFCC is empowered to track it. But when you look at the way things happen, and I think one of our former governors says it, that once you cross carpet to another party, your sins are forgiven.
But even when you cross carpet or don't cross carpet, we see that EFCC most times is only on the case of a governor when they leave office.
Okay. So
while they're office,
yeah,
they're
but
in office.
there's immunity.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That we are told, oh, there's immunity clause. Can that clause be waived? Because once you've left government, you've done the damage already. So it now becomes a case that, oh, they're pursuing, and as you say, once they cross carpet, we don't see the end of the issue again. The next governor comes in, do the same thing, it just goes on.
Okay, so now there are a few things I want to first of all speak on. Now, to be objective and to be just, the immunity clause in the Constitution should not be tampered with, because a opposition political party will take advantage of it to hinder any incumbent chief executive from carrying out the activities and the functions of governance.
But have they not abused that
They
reason?
have abused it. However, we remember vividly the former governor of, is it Anambra State, before Soludo came in, the former governor, when he was, immediately he handed power. He was on his way out of the country when he was rather apprehended by the EFCC, the ICPC, and a few law enforcement agencies. So if they can do that, they can do that very well. Now, I want to say,
because we see that these cases tend to be selected.
Yes, I want to address a few things. Now, one of it is that the president, the EFCC, when the president is appointing the chairman of the EFCC, there must be a direct, objective communication. Look, please, do not come here to think you are doing my bidding. You are not supposed to be a politician. The president needs to give a public, strong statement to the EFCC chairman. You are not here to do my bidding. You are here to chase after officers in government, both state, federal, and local government, who are found to be wanting and siphoning money. Do not look at my body language or political bias. Don't do that, whether it's in my political party or not. You need to fight corruption, and that's your responsibility, and you must do the same.
But
now, I know the government...
EFCC chairman or a chairman need the president to say
No, I'm just saying the president needs to show that. And when he needs to show that, he needs to be very, very vocal concerning that. That's one thing I want to address. The other part is this. Talking about institutional contribution to devaluing the economy of Nigeria, the judiciary has a very strong role to play. And in fact, at the moment, one can say the judiciary is driving Nigerian politics. for now. It is subtle, but it is obvious to the eyes that see. Why did I say that? Doc referenced issues of defections when people defect. If you defect to this political party, your sins are forgiven. Yeah, it's because that senator came out to say it that particular time, that period in time. It has been the norm. So, but there were laws in place in the Constitution that if you defect from political party A, through which you secured a political office, to political party B, you will lose your seat.
But we see that law being implemented.
However, there is a clause that what can uphold your argument for defection from your political party through which you came to power to another political party, it's when there is crisis in that political party.
And you know that crisis most times happen.
No, what we are defining as crisis, Doc, is very, very wrong.
The question, why I said that crisis always happen, there will always be an arrangement. It's just that you have made a law. Somebody wants to break the law. So the person is exploring the leeway to break the law, to break the law, so that it's not as if they break the law. They just went around the law. So there will just be internal crisis.
No, it's not crisis.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not crisis.
Whether staged, whether caused by some people, just
crisis
to give
must
them...
be defined.
You are the one who's defining.
No, crisis must be defined according to the law.
Crisis. There is crisis.
Is there a division in the party?
There is crisis.
No.
You're the one who's defining whether you're the one who's defining the authenticity of the crisis
within your political parties. Now, take for example, let's use even the River State as a test case. Now, even to the blind, that in River State and up to the federal, there was division.
In which political party?
I mean PDP. Because the 5 governors. Oh, yes.
The 5 Gs.
Yes, the 5 governors.
Oh, Doc, that was pre-electoral crisis.
Yes, that's what I was saying.
So crisis.
No. What that means is that.
It's not even crisis.
No, it was.
It was a crisis because they were on one side. It became factional.
So the center can't even hold. And so we're saying that the party that gave me a platform, they are no longer able to coordinate their house. And therefore, I have a reason to defend. But I'm not even going about that route of the defections and the things that come with whether people lose their seat or not lose their seat. But the fact that the chief executives of states themselves become despots in a little way, that there's a way you can hoodwink members of the state assembly to submit, because the power of the purse is with the excellency. And you see that had been used in River State, which of course people are not looking at, which is the real bottom line. That you say that these guys, they have defected, they have lost their seat. Now, you need to go to INEC to tell INEC that these guys have lost their seat so that they can come and do another election so that they can fill those space, even before you are acting illegally. So these are issues. See, in Nigeria, there are a lot of issues that people talk about, selective morality. But this is the issue here. Allocations to states. The assembly members are in the pocket of the governor. The, what do you call it? Local governments are in the pocket of the governor. Now, who controls the local government is the one who is the commander-in-chief. And one of the things that people are not talking about between Wike and Fubara is who is controlling the local government. That is structure that is in the local government that you used to win the election, somebody is having it. And you can see how Fubara took it from PDP and go and give it to ADC to hold for him. So this is the problem. So when you people are tended to always tilt toward a caregiver, and who is the caregiver?
I like the word you use. Caregiver, yes.
Who is the caregiver here? Is the man who is donating the power.
Okay.
So you find that even in the party structure of winning primaries, the governor controls who is a delegate from the ward up to the state.
I think it's the way the political structure
Now, this is what is wrong with our politics. And that is why politics is undermining development. So you don't have dissenting voices. So when issues are put on the table, only one person is talking. And what he says become the law. That is what we as citizens must fight against. That the power to win election does actually not lie in the political party. It lies in us who are the citizen that can determine and say, look, it doesn't matter who is the political godfather here.
But if
Prayer is what we want to become the governor.
But how would that happen?
Become the governor straight.
And he doesn't need to
But
spend
how
any
would
money.
that? But he has to spend money
Great,
because
I
I
like
was going
that.
there. How would that happen when the people have been impoverished? So when you brandish 5,000 naira, which is even very big, before them, they're willing to sell their vote. When you give them 3,000 naira, they are willing to sell the vote. In fact, the parties are only powerful before election. After election, the governors become more powerful than the political party. After election, the president becomes more powerful than the political party. They even dictate the direction the political party goes. They now become
But because the goats are linking the salt.
They now become the ones who are steering the affairs of the party. So we have strong men. We have never had strong institutions. And it's also at the political party level. Because once election is over, the governor is not the one sponsoring the party. He dictates what happens.
Okay,
no.
so
This is it. Listen, I keep using this analogy. When goat is licking salt, even if you carry it.
Who has the salt? Let's know the owner of the salt in this case.
Now, I will tell you who is the owner of the salt. If the goat is licking salt, you can carry that goat from here till those states.
It becomes
as long
senseless.
as the salt is in the mouth, that goat cannot cry. Now, this is it. Immediately after election is done, the winner of the election is determining who gets what, when, and how.
So he's not the owner of the salt.
Now, the so-called men who are the party structure are struggling and scrambling for appointments, and they are doing to do anything. Even in some cases, some people had to lie down in coffin some years ago.
Really?
In this state to say, I'm going to be loyal to you. Yeah. And this is the things that you are not seeing, but they are all behind the scene. So people can't talk.
Okay, so this is where I wanted to actually bring a few things out. The governors, we cannot remove politics from economics. We cannot remove politics from how we come about our budgets and how the National Assembly come about their budget and how they secured almost 100% increase in the 2025 budget. We cannot completely, exclude, dismiss politics.
So
politics.
So where do we draw the line between politics and economics, politics and development?
Politics will always play a role. It is a norm. In fact, it is usual. In fact, it should be abnormal if politics is not in the equation. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because in every political party, there is internal politics. The manifestation of internal politics, the operationalization of internal politics, the factionalization of party members within a political party must not be defined, or we must not define the outcome of it as crisis.
Why won't we define it as crisis?
If you define, we are not all back to
about factionalization.
Yes,
factionalization
must not be defined.
Okay.
Haven't you seen how that factionalization has made some parties lose
No, it is not crisis.
The other faction produces
Define
another
crisis
candidate.
for us.
Huh?
Define crisis for us.
Okay, fine. It's crisis when the political party has become in tatters. In what sense?
So how does it get in tatters?
No, in what sense? Because even the law itself recognizes internal politicking.
Does the law
We must
recognize
not, now that
factionalization?
we have presented candidate A as the winner of this election, that's representing a political party, how did he emerge from that political party? it doesn't mean that all 2 million, 3 million people in that political
So,
party
let
will
me
have
ask
one
you,
voice
how
to
do
really.
you see
So when we are not to, when they are not to, there must not be seen.
Faction A is conducting primary, faction B is conducting primary, and they go to court.
The only reason, yes, even when they go to court, it is allowed because they are treating it the legal
And they
way.
lose the election
Now,
because they drag the matter even out to election. At the end of the day, they have no
they still
candidates.
lose. Yes, fine. That is not
So what
crisis.
people-
That's not crisis.
What is crisis?
It is crisis.
Just define it
It is
first.
crisis. It is crisis when the law has given it a definition by the judiciary. It is crisis when it is crisis when it's crisis when there is when it does not follow the guideline of INEC to arrive at producing the party leadership.
So within one party,
when it does not follow the
let me ask
guidelines
you
of
this question.
INEC, sorry please, when it does not follow
Yes,
the
you're talking about when it
guidelines
doesn't
of
follow the
INEC,
guidelines of INEC.
to produce the party leadership, then we can say it's crisis. And when it goes to court, and the court has given a verdict, but they refuse to accept the verdict of the court and continue. And in that particular case, while they are doing that, there is chaos and disorderliness to the extent that there are threats to lives of people. Then we can say it is crisis. Then we can say that you have right to defect to another person.
Let me ask you now. So how does
there's
it
a
lead?
division within the party. That's what the Constitution says. The word that is used is division. That there's a visible division at the party at the national level.
How does the law define division then?
Now, wait. So if there's division at the party at national level, then of course, defection become legal. But let's leave the law outside of it. But what I'm saying to you is that there's no way you will not find that division. Take, for example, if you look at APC today is an amalgamation of ACN plus ANPP plus CPC. You see it? Now, if you see what's happening in APC today, under Muhammadu Buhari, CPC consolidated. And so all the people who were the stakeholder and the talkers, they were all CPC. Now, under Bola Ahmed Asiwaju, the current president, ACN has consolidated. And that's why you are seeing who are the sidelined, ANPP and CPC. And that's why you are seeing that some people are moving out of APC to go join SDP. Now go and track them. You can't find any of them as member of ACN. So, which means the Constitution already has envisioned that movement is going to happen. And that division and those lines are clear enough. And you find it. You remember there was a day they were having new PDP in APC.
Yes.
When the Saraki and the rest of them, they decamp and come in. So all these things are potent instruments that create conflicts within the party. And once that happens, you see visible division, that people are towing this line, some people are towing this line. And they say, look, center can no longer hold, like Chinua Achebe said. And then, of course, those things happen. But let's not go into the politics of all of it. But the point I'm trying to make is the fact that if money that are coming to state and local government will become very effective, the people have a role to play. And what is this role? And this is the role that they can now, from what Blessing has said, let Nigerians dignify poverty. Because after all...
How do you mean dignify poverty?
Oh, yeah. After all, the 400 naira they are giving to you, or 4,000, cannot serve you for 1 year. So it does not solve your problem. So if somebody gives you a carton of Indomie, it has not solved your problem. So if somebody gives you maybe a condo of rice, it has not solved your problem. True. Now, can't we really come together and say we need somebody who will fix healthcare for us, who will fix school for us, who will make our road good, and that reduce our cost, and we're not going to be spending so much money, and we can trust this person. He's from our society. We know his antecedent. We know what it is in the past, and we see that this person doesn't have money. We are going to support this person all the way through to the top so that the change that we need can happen. Now, until that happens in our polity, You see what's happening in Kogi as we speak. I saw an army of people yesterday who are lining up to go and sign the register for the recall of their senator. And I'm asking, how is it happening? Video evidences. Oh, they say one politician in the state is mobilizing them. So why will us allow ourselves to be used? Okay. So there is, yes, poverty is there, but we can dignify it by refusing the insults that politicians bring to us in the name of a bottle of Coke or 5,000 and then enslave us for 5 years. That's the point I'm making. Until we get to that point, you will find that accountability will be missing because the way the politics is wired right now, it is wired in favor of one man who can pay the price and then dictate the tune.
All right, Doc, I'll tell you why we may not get to that point, or it will take a long while for us to get to that point.
I'm already dignifying my poverty.
Doc, you're one who's dignified. He's not even poor to begin with. But you see why poverty cannot be dignified. Because we live in a society where it doesn't matter if a man has been an armed robber. The moment he shows up with good cars, he lives in a mansion, he comes into a social event and is spraying naira, dollars, everybody will forget what he does.
His sins have been covered.
His sins have been forgotten. So nobody remembers that. Even those he has robbed, he can still give them money there and they will hail him. We live in that time. So nobody wants, they prefer the insult of running after politicians who will throw money at them than for them not to be able to meet their daily needs. So they know very well that even that person that they pick to say, let's rally behind this person, there is a chance, a great chance, that that person can act like you're on the same page just to get there. The moment the person gets there, is inaccessible. You can't even call his number. You can't even get to his office. His language changes. And he begins to act on his own, pursue his own goal. So they rather take the 4,000 naira and they tell you, this is my own. I know I've collected my own. Because they don't even trust anybody. They don't even trust that whoever they choose to rally behind, when that person gets there eventually, the person is going to work for the good of people. You know how power and money reveals the true character of people. So a person may look humble or may act humble today. The person may be talking, even criticizing government. The moment they get into that very office, they could even do worse. Okay. So we live in that time and era where it is all man for themselves. People are fighting for their stomach. It is now about building stomach infrastructure than building any type of infrastructure. We live in a time where a road is bad. The government wants to develop that road. It is still the community leaders that will go around and say, do it like this. Just grade it. They are okay. At least you did at all. Your predecessor did nothing. Let's share the remaining money. That's the time we live in. So at what time will such a people summon up courage to say, we don't want whatever you're giving to us. We want to see change. Because even in their own little capacity, the associations they head, the role they play as leaders in whatever capacity, they are failing in it. So it's a systemic problem that has become like, this is something that I don't even know. At some point, it seems like it's only God that can save the people. But the people are not even willing to be saved.
But that's why you need to tell them this morning.
They're not willing to be saved.
That embarrassment that the 5,000, the 10,000 is bringing to them is not good for them.
They don't even see it as embarrassment.
Yes, they should see it.
They see it as reward. When they come back from...
No,
have you just been around people that... Before election, they are calculating how much they want to do. And when they come back, they are proud to say, this is how much I collected.
They should be seeing it as insult. That the man who you help to climb, that after he has climbed, he has given you that peanut.
Payoff.
And then now he climbs. You can't even reach his gate.
Okay, so there's a reason we must understand.
It's an insult. So they should not take the insult. Nigerians should not take insult. So when politicians come to you with bag of money next time, ask them what they have done before. And if they have no antecedent, leave them and give it to people who have antecedent. Okay. We have seen people who are community leaders who use their resources to see how to see community work. We see people who volunteer their time and energy to deal with community. But my real issue on this particular NAT report was even the debt issue. which we have not looked at.
Yes, in spite of the revenue that's increased, they are borrowing and borrowing more.
All states, 36 states.
For the 36 states, Lagos owing 20% of that, 164 billion. Even with the 50, and that is distorted from the source. And then followed by Kaduna State with 51 billion. And that's, of course, the hangover from El-Rufai. Then, of course, you have Rivers State, 38 billion. And the most surprising is Bauchi State.
And that's because it has
on that league of big borrowers.
Yes, it's because it's almost like free money. So when it gets to your turn, you borrow, and then you leave it for the incoming administration to deal with that. So they come to say, we've inherited this amount of debt. So they're also planning on borrowing to and piling on it. Okay. It's because nothing happens when people misappropriate public funds. We wait for 4 years and say, because of immunity clause, we do not want to distort governance. Meanwhile, people are distorting governance with misappropriation of funds. They are distorting governance with bad leadership. And we allow them to be there for 4 years. We even allow them to be re-elected because we do not want to distort governance. So there's an immunity clause that protects them. And when they leave, it depends on what side they are on. If they've been loyal to the powers that be, nothing happens. If they've been disloyal, we hear EFCC is after them. After a while, you don't hear anything. They're either fainting in court, collapsing, giving one excuse where they have to go for medical tourism in order not to be in court. And after a while, the matter ends there.
Okay, so I think one of the reasons why Doc was talking about the people, their responsibility not to accept. See, the political elite has monetized politics in Nigeria, and they've made sure rather that it is unreachable for the man on the street who has the power to vote and to replace any government at any time. So what the people do is that they don't have trust at all. Even for their party leaders, they don't have any trust. And they feel like, well, because I don't trust this guy, I don't care what you're going to do there. You have the power to get there. Now that you are there, anything I'm going to collect from you, no matter how insignificant it is, I'm going to make away with that 5,000 naira, with that 1 Congo of rice. But it is a disrespect to humanity. And they must understand that, look, they're selling out their 4 years for 5,000. Not even the most foolish kind of businessman will want to embark in such investment.
Well, the civil society organizations can also begin to do their bits, even though we know there are some who are just using that as a platform to get to attain visibility and maybe get some appointments. But there are still some who are angry about situations, who want to call out any wrongdoing by government. I think that the process should be followed, and we should have more of this happening. Well, while some people have settled for 5,000 naira and will still want to settle for 5,000 naira, for those who feel or who know that it is better that we say keep your 5,000 naira, let's ensure that change happens and follow through. Let us all do what is necessary to ensure that for every money that local government, states and federal receiving, they are doing something. As much as we are trying to hold the federal government accountable by asking the president questions, by asking what is happening, we should be asking more questions to the states. We should be asking more questions, asking local governments more questions, because they are even closer to the people. If you cannot see local government doing anything, then I don't think we should be asking the federal that is at the top what they are doing. So it has to begin, it has to be all tiers of government at the end of the day. Let's take a break. Policy Discuss comes up after this time.
Hello, Nigeria. Hello, Africa. Yeah, this is Sound Man. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Babalola from Excel LED. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souq News TV.
Hi, I'm Tom Bogaballs, and please keep watching Souq News.
Wale Seriki, SLG Lagos Island East. Souq News, keep out watching them and keep a lookout for them. They're up and coming, and we're proudly to be affiliated with them.
You alone where they make me go crazy. This your love in the cool of my brain. You're my medicine, I need you all day. Yo, it's Blackface Nigeria, and you're watching Souq News TV. Keep it locked on this dial, don't change it. You know what I say? Blackface Nigeria, love no bad.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job. Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekbetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande. Souq Enlightenment.
There's a confusion about China that, and let me at least give you my opinion. The popular conception is that companies come to China because of low labor cost. I'm not sure what part of China they go to, but the truth is China stopped being the low labor cost country many years ago. And that is not the reason to come to China from a supply point of view. The reason is because of the skill and the quantity of skill in one location and the type of skill it is.
All right, so that was Tim Cook there talking about China's economic growth strategy and how there's the misconception that China has low labor costs, and so that's why people go over to China to produce. He was actually explaining the advantage China has, its economy has rather. So let's talk about China's economic strategy for growth amidst the global tensions, and what can Africa, what can Nigeria especially learn from it. We just finished a conversation talking about the roles of the tiers of government towards development. So what is here to copy about China? We have Dr. Ken Ikenwa, who is a business policy analyst and also a lecturer at University of Lagos, Nigeria. He joins the conversation this morning virtually. Hello, Dr. Ken. Good morning.
Good morning, Blessing. Nice being with you again. Morning
Great
to everybody.
It's great to hear and see you. You sound very good, so I'm sure that we're going to have a great conversation.
I'm having volume issues here, so I may have to convert to my earpiece so that I can hear you properly. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
We can see you enjoying the blessings of the Lord.
Thank you very much, sir. Shalom, Emeka.
All right, now, I'm sure that you watched that excerpt from the speech made by Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple Incorporated, and how he was talking about China's economic growth. Let's begin from there. Over the years, there have been many assumptions as to how China has been able to grow its economy and become one of the world powers today. People speculate, some think it's about their production capacity, what they've been able to do regarding production. Some other think is technology. What can we actually say about China, how they've evolved over years to become key player in global economy?
All right. Thank you very much for that question. It's a good thing that at this time in the world, where the global economy is experiencing a global reset, a global restructuring, no thanks, and some thanks also to Trumpism that is holding sway in America and having its multiply effects around the world. It is good that we begin to discuss and highlight and spotlight countries that have been able to transit themselves from being third world countries to being first world countries and being major economic movers and shakers in the global trade sphere, in the global technology sphere. And China is no less a good example. I would have thought, and from the things I read about the history of Nigeria in the 70s, Nigeria should have been the China of Africa. But I am positive that we have a generation of young minds that would take over and possibly bring that to fruition. Now let's get back to the crux of the matter. What did China actually do? It will interest our viewers to note that as far back as 1960, the our country, precious blessed country called Nigeria, was doing well, doing better than China and most of the Asian tigers, Malaysia, the Indonesias of this world, in terms of per capita GDP and in terms of productivity. But China, which at a point in time, and I think which at the point in time was the largest populated country in the world, was able to sit back and have a strategic thinking session with themselves, for themselves, and by themselves. And that is very important. A strategic thinking session with themselves, for themselves, by themselves. They didn't rely on external bodies like the Bretton Woods institutions to give them, economic blueprints on how to build their economies. And so they developed the one China, one focus policy. And they were able to close up their economy, close up their countries, and practice some degree of partial mercantilism, partial protectionism, and sent most of their best brains abroad to go and learn, especially in the United States and other Western countries, and they came back. Unfortunately, we're having a renaissance where the teachers are now becoming the students of the students that were once taught. And that is where the problem actually is. So, what has China done? What has China got rightly? China had a strategic focus. China had a blueprint of where it needed to be and put all hands on the deck. And we must emphasize the fact that China had stability. I wouldn't want to go into terms of what kind of the political system of governance is ideal, whether the Chinese communist or partial capitalist communist kind of system is ideal. That is not the basis for the discussion. The actual thing we must focus on is what they have done rightly and what countries from the global south, Nigeria in particular, can learn from China. Now, some may want to argue that China is not as diversified in terms of ethnicity like Nigeria. That is wrong. In China, you have over 40 to 50 different dialects. But again, it was the one China, one people policy where a major dialect, Mandarin, was made to be the single lingua franca of the country. And people learned along that line and people were able to build the focus and follow the vision of Chairman Mao. And today, China pairs and pars along with other Western countries as one of the largest economies in the world.
Thank you, Ken. for that very early submission. If you listen to Tim Cook, one of the things he said in that short clip was the fact that if you go to America today, you can find a tools engineer only in a small room. But in China, you can find them in multiple football fields. So which means that their education system has been able to create people with high IQ that produce innovative tools that the world needs. And Tim Cook said that's why companies are moving to China, not just necessarily because of low labor costs. What has happened to our institutions of learning? Why are we not producing engineers that can pioneer innovations? Are you there?
Sir, so I couldn't pick up on everything that you actually said. I actually lost the audio there.
What I'm saying is that Tim Cook says the reason why companies are moving to China is because they have a lot of tools engineer, real innovative tools engineer. And of course, high-tech industry needs those kind of engineers. He say in America, you can only find them if you put all of them together, they can only stay in one room. But in China, you find them in multiple fields. I'm asking, because you have done a comparison between Nigeria in the 60s and China, what has happened to us? How has the intellectuals in Nigeria not been able to produce tools engineer that can attract foreign investment to this environment?
For the first time, I will want to compare apples with oranges because it seems that between Nigeria and China, we have some dynamics and some strategic characteristics that could be likened to one another. Now, if we do a trajectory of the progress of Nigeria from 1960 and look at that of China, what actually did happen? Now, there's a school of thought that actually says that the military incursion into politics in 1966 was the biggest bane of Nigeria. And that between 1963 and 1966, when Nigeria became a republic, we're doing extremely well. We had people from Singapore come to learn what we were doing and doing rightly. We had our GDP. We at a point in time, and I'm not too sure of that. I'd like to fact check that later. We're able to borrow money to. We were able to fund some projects, even in the colonial, in the country of the colonial masters. And I think technically we still keep doing that. So we must trace it because politics and economics are Siamese twins that go hand in hand. I think we started getting it wrong when the military decided to enforce themselves into Nigerian politics, destabilize the economy, rather than face the purpose for which they were employed, which was to protect the territorial integrity of the nation. They thought it best. It was a contagion effect from what had happened in Ghana and a few neighboring African and West African countries, and that began to hold sway. And I think that was also borrowed from what had happened in Spain and what had happened in some Latin American countries. So the revolution of the 1966 incursion into politics, I think, took us down this path. And ever since, I can't particularly say that we have been able to recover. Now, we must also look at the kind of political culture that we have in our country. What is the basic characteristic of our political culture? And until we are able to change that political culture, there will be a challenge for us to actually attain the height of economic growth and development that we need to attain to. I overheard you just before I joined the studio on how subnationals in Nigeria, for instance, are indebted, heavily indebted, to some foreign agencies, to some, foreign financial institutions. And then you look at the constitutional infractions that actually give room to that. Why would a particular government come in place, for instance, now, borrow money from the World Bank and leave that state after about 8 years or 4 years, not pay that money back, and nobody is held accountable? And then Nigeria has to bear that burden and not the subnational. So I think the way that the country is structured in itself is an infraction for us to actually develop geometrically, to actually have moved beyond where we were in 1966, instead of priding ourselves with a few bridges, with a few expansion and escalation in the number of universities we have, a number of professors we have, there has been no real development. In China, for instance, in the last 10 years, in the last 20 years, in the last 2 decades, China has been able to lift about 80 to 70% of its population out of poverty, whereas the reverse has been the case in Nigeria. So we can't be talking about progress. We can't be talking about development without talking about politics, without talking about the actual nature of our constitutionalism, without talking about our system and our structure of governance. Once we can identify these critical catalysts and see what we can do to reinvent them and see how we can actually build a one Nigeria, one people voice, then I think that the sky would even be the limit for us in Nigeria. Currently, we have the third wave of brain drain in Nigeria. Who is responsible for that? When we look at the economics of the country, I would not say if the government or if things are bad or things are not bad. I don't want to go into the argument. I think that we are having reforms, and I think that we're having a reset, we're having shifts. But I also think that those reforms came too early, and they didn't quite care for the Pareto optimality and Pareto effect and Pareto multiplier effects of how these reforms were actually ushered in. So it's a question of politics, it's a question of policy, it's a question also of the kind of people that we have entrusted with power and with the development of initiatives to take Nigeria from being a factor-driven economy to being an efficiency-driven economy, and finally, like China, to become an innovation and technological.
Ken, I want you to speak to the role, I want you to speak to the role of the intellectuals in revolutions and transforming society. And how has the Nigerian intellectual fared in this regard?
Well, I think you would want me to indict my constituency, Dr. Inaosa. That is where you are pushing me to. And I would not be indicting my senior colleagues or the ones that are coming behind me. I would say that to a great extent, the intelligentsia in Nigeria has been made to play to the gallery. Why? Because education and the outcomes of the intelligentsia and the outcomes of devotion to a lifetime of academics and academia has been politicized and has been made impoverished. When I was in the university as at 1996, it will surprise you to know that the take-home pay for a professor as at 1996 was 12,000 naira a month. Presently, I don't want to be quoted, but I don't fear to be quoted. I think the take-home pay for a professor in Nigeria today in a federal public university, away from allowances, is about 400 to 450,000 a month. Sir, how much is that in dollar terms? A little under $200 a month. So how do you expect somebody that earns $200 a month in today's global economy to start focusing on revolution, start focusing on economic, political, and social thought that will lift his country or lift her country from the economic abyss, malaise that we found ourselves? Instead, it will be how best they can cater for themselves and cater for their families. So the conditions of service, the conditions of the economy definitely has a negative correlation with the extent to which the intelligentsia can actually contribute to taking us out of where we are. And that is why you see even in public institutions and even in private, tertiary institutions these days, that people tend to have side gigs so that they can complement their jobs. And the quality of research it seems to be a little bit low because even the government is not funding the research as much as it ought to. But I hope with some of the policies that are coming on board, there will be a revamp of the situation and they will find more contributions and more commitment on the part of the academia and the intelligentsia to take us to the next level of.
So the poverty of the intellectuals has led to our intellectual poverty.
Well, I think I disagree with you that we have a situation of intellectual poverty in Nigeria, because when you look at some of the conferences, you look at some of the outputs of research, some Nigerian intellectuals have been able to still stand out. I would not say it is intellectual poverty, as it were. I would just call it intellectual discrimination. I think the intellectuals, to a great extent, are discriminated against in the Nigerian society. To that extent, I would say they are not valued. And they are valued to the extent to which they can be docile in the face of politicians, where they do not have the power to speak truth to power, where they do not have the economic viability to be able to speak truth to power and to stand by their words. So it is a negative correlation, and I'm certain that my generation and your generation, Dr. Elsa, should be able to correct that anomaly.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ken. I'm glad you referenced the case of university professors who are earning 400,000 naira. I will advocate for the least they should be paid ₦1 million naira, and the doctor should follow with 800,000 naira. Then maybe any other lecturer can go with
500,000 or between 650,000 naira. Now, away from that, let me take you back to China. Currently, as we speak, the current administration of President Donald Trump in the United States of America is shaking the whole world. Is China perturbed? Well, we can't really tell for now, but it looks like since Donald Trump has started putting out some policies that is going to tariff some of the goods and importations will be coming to China, it seems like China is reciprocating by tariffing the agricultural produce coming from the United States of America, which is the biggest or one of the biggest sectors in the United States of America. And as a result of that, China is now turning their face to importing poultry from Brazil. And they are also looking at India. So it looks like China will not want to, they want to meet the United States of America face to face, head to head, shoulder to shoulder, and not to fall back or be perturbed by virtue of the trade policies coming. Do you think Nigeria stands any advantage to mitigate any of these policies by way of trade coming from the United States for us to stand the ground to make sure that we are not undermined in global trade?
All right. It's at this juncture that I like to speak the truth to power and speak the truth about the situation and the status quo of our country, because it's always the popular thing to play with a lot of data, and in so doing, we play and discuss and credit issues to the gallery. Now, the first credit we must give to China is the fact that China is, amongst other things, able to actually diversify when it has challenges of this nature. So one of the things that China has started doing is, and started preparing for this time as though, they had the prophetic revelation of biblical proportions with respect to what could happen over the next, and that's what we call strategic planning and strategic thinking, all right? And strategic insights, all right? And strategic foresight. So there has been this foresight, and that's why since 2010, China has been planning on how to diversify the economy and how to diversify the pattern of growth of the Chinese economy. Now, between 1978 and 2009, the pattern of growth for the Chinese economy was to pursue manufacturing dominance and to pursue an export-led hypothesis, an export-led, export-driven hypothesis, which made China one of the greatest exporters of finished goods in the world and a big destination for the attraction of foreign direct investment, where you have companies, American companies like the Apples, like the HPs of this world, the Nikes of this world, actually relocating their facilities to China because of low labor costs. And like Tim Cook said, because of the high degree of skill and manpower that China had been able to invest over the years, and which made expertise cheaper for some of these international multinational companies to actually procure labor and get their goods produced and have seamless supply chains to have these goods distributed across the world. So, with what is happening with Trumpism 2.0 now, Trumpism is all about putting America first and ensuring that they are reshoring production, reshoring manufacturing, facilities and manufacturing activities to bring them back into America so that these jobs that have been hitherto exported can now be domiciled in the American space. And in economics, we have economic reciprocity where, for instance, when you place a particular level of tariffs, for instance, the American government has placed tariffs on 550 billion naira worth of goods exported from China or imported from China into America with a tariff of about 25%. And China has, reciprocated. Now, the implications of that is that there will be price wars, there will be price distortions, and there will be price escalations across the different regional economic blocks in the world. So what has China done? China is now transiting. Okay, we don't have to export everything. We should now begin to think of how we can stimulate internal demand and, harness a strategy called the dual circulation strategy, where they are able to balance what they are doing externally with what is being done internally. Where does Nigeria come in? Now, with respect to the kind of tariffs, with respect to the kind of trade wars, with respect to the kind of policies that American, as an economic power, is actually pursuing across the world now, we need to first ask the question, what is the trade volume between America as a single country, not a continent, and Africa as a continent? What is the amount of the GDP of the trade flow, all right, that American African relations have in terms of trade? The last time I checked, it was up to 10%. So Nigeria shouldn't be bothered about the relations or the tariffs coming in or some of what the negative multiplier effect or the negative externalities that will come from new policies that will be championed by the Trump administration. Instead, Nigeria should do what China has done and what China will continue to do. How do we diversify our economy to stimulate local demand? How do we diversify the character of the Nigerian people to think Nigerian and buy Nigerian? The way forward for the Nigerian economy is to go back to what we had in 1970s, where we had refrigerators produced in Nigeria, where we had batteries produced in Badagry, where we had, motor plants like the Volkswagen, the Peugeots, producing cars in Kaduna, producing cars in Badagry, and we had a lot of production facilities going on in this country until the structural adjustment program was introduced and until from external forces were made to devalue our currency under the guise that that will better boost our economic productivity and boost other economic activities. So for Nigeria, it is time to think internally. For Nigeria, it is time to begin to look for strategic insights as a people, as a government, on what we can do, what we should do, not and balance the positive economics and the normative economics. With positive economics, we talk about what should be. With normative economics, we talk about what has been. So what should be? We should start stimulating manufacturing. We should start stimulating indigenous manufacturing. We should start stimulating indigenous demand, and we should start placing tariffs on imported goods also, so that we can have Nigerians produce goods, invite companies into Nigeria to produce goods in Nigeria, produce goods for Nigeria, and satisfy the Nigerian local market and export what is left. As we stand, as we speak, Nigeria remains a monoproduct economy. Yes, we keep saying.
Dr. Kenny Kewa, let's look at the China situation. You've been talking about Nigeria looking inward and producing. So the case of China, they are not having that challenge, but the challenge they are having even is over capacity in industrialization. There is deflation in China, and that's a source of worry for the Chinese government at the moment, what that could lead to. Let's look at that. First of all, China developed its production capacity. Now that production capacity is even more than the country can consume. That's why China is also exporting. How do you think they can handle that challenge? And on the other side for Nigeria, as we encourage Nigeria to look internally and begin to produce, is there anything to learn, observe, and plan for so that we don't also get to a point where Nigeria begins to experience deflation? Understanding that whatever side that we are on, there could be advantage and disadvantage depending on the time and season. How do we handle that? But let's talk about China first, handling its deflation issue.
Well, if I was in a position to advise China, I would go the route of some unorthodox economics or economics orthodoxy, unorthodoxy. And what does that mean? One of the things that I've not highlighted is the fact that China is experiencing the kind of problems it's experiencing, even with its population of over 1 billion, because the population of China is actually aging. And don't forget, between the 1960s and 1970s, in order to curb the Chinese population, there was a one family, one child policy. And to a great extent now, that policy is coming back to have a negative vibration, a negative multiplier effect on the Chinese economy. Because whilst they tried to curb their population and still left it at 1 billion, they increased their capacity utilization for production, but were not able to increase the capacity for local demand, domestic consumption. So on orthodoxy, the first thing that China needs to do is to start encouraging people to have more children. Because the population is actually aging. The population of those that are skillful, the population of those that are very productive is actually aging and are not willing to give birth to more children. And whether we like it or not, the great professor of economics, Malthus, talked about population and impact of population on economics. And you cannot be talking about the growth in GDP or a deflation in GDP or a reduction in GDP if you don't calculate it vis-a-vis what the population of the country is. Now, bring that same argument back to Nigeria and see whether that economic unorthodoxy would work. It wouldn't work because right now we have a population that is growing faster than the kind of income or than the rate of income that Nigeria can earn in terms of per capita income or in terms of the GDP collectively. So what can Nigeria actually do to avoid this glut, this situation, this impasse that China is actually experiencing? there is a serious correlation, a serious relationship between the level of a country's literacy, the literacy rate of a country. And now we're not just talking of the literacy of the ability that has to do with the ability to read and write. We're now moving from, reading literacy to actually digital literacy. So as we speak, the literacy level in Nigeria hovers between 55% to 50% or thereabouts. And then you look at the literacy level and put it side by side, the poverty rates, the actual poverty rates, and you will see that the distance is not much. So one of the first things that China actually did was to liberalize education in China and to ensure that education was raised to the best standard. After sending their citizens out, they invited foreign professors to come and teach their people, and China is also a destination for foreign education and attract a lot of foreign currency in that sector. So the first thing Nigeria has to do, if we're going to make the right decision, is to stop the mal-education of the Nigerian population. Today we have graduates that are not employable. How do we explain that? Today we have a population, like you rightly said before I came into the studio, came onto the virtual studio, that collects money to be able to vote for somebody. It means that we are not thinking in the right direction that will create progress. So I'm not going to speak too much about economic jargons or what Nigeria needs to do. I will pull it down to what we actually need to do. Once we are able to rightly educate our people, people would understand why it is better to patronize a made in Nigerian cobbler than to patronize a French or an American cobbler with their made in America or made in French shoes. Once we are able to escalate the resources that is given to Nigerian universities, whether private or public, and allow people to be properly educated and thoroughly educated and given the best like they had in the 70s, we will not have the best of Nigerians traveling out of this country to go and give the same resources for which they were trained in Nigeria to other countries just because they want to get the citizenship of those countries. So for me, the major catalyst, all right, to preserving the economic dream, the economic, progress, the economic potential of Nigeria is to start looking at the educational sector. Once we can educate our people properly, they can take the right decisions, and those decisions will be in the interest of economic progress and not economic sabotage.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, Dr. Ken, I want to reverse you to something that Dr. Simon said in the studio. I know recently there's been, because when Tim Cook was speaking, he was talking about how the technologies, the tools for engineering and all of that, and how China has proliferated lots of manpower concerning that technology and how that has, boosted manufacturing in China to the extent that they have enough for local consumption and they are exporting to the whole of Africa and even Europe, including the United States as we speak. We need to replicate that. And recently, the colleges of education, the tango between the BSc, those who acquire BSc now, the BTech for the, what are they called again? These are lower institutions.
Because it's just say polytechnics. Polytechnic, it's great. Of learning. You see, that thing you said now is why they're having issues.
So now, how can we draw the line? Because with this recent policy and the recent direction we are heading, it's like everybody is coming after your job as a lecturer, as a white collar, a blue collar job, and nobody wants to get their hands dirty in the manufacturing hubs again in Nigeria. How can we retain that irrespective of the new policy?
Well, the Nigerian economy has become a paper-based economy rather than a merit-based economy. And so we focus so much on degrees, individuals and their degrees, without actually looking at individuals and their pedigree. So we have a lot of individuals that are educated, even to the doctorate level, with these humongous degrees, but do not have pedigree. Now, any serious country that is serious about industrialization and serious about economic growth, exponential and quantum economic growth, must focus on technical education. Now, let me bust your bubble, or maybe I should increase the bubble. And I'm not going to mention certain companies in Nigeria, but you see some of the multinational companies that actually come to Nigeria to get a lot of construction works done. And some of the big ones, at least some of the big fours. Let's not unduly advertise them here. I invite them to come and advertise on Souq. It's a good platform to actually market and sell their business. But I know, because I've interacted with some of these people, that some of these expatriates that direct the supervision of these jobs, of this construction of bridges, of this construction of towers, are actually products of technical vocational education and colleges in those countries from where they come, being made supervisors, being made foremen, being made heads of department, ahead and above our own graduates and master's degree holders of civil engineering, of mechanical engineering, of electrical engineering. Now, the problem that you have highlighted, the HND BSc dichotomy and BSc conflict, is even further reinforced by the fact that now most institutions which were hitherto created as schools of technology, as polytechnics, where people actually get their hands down and grind with debt and get the actual practical output and practical input into mechanics and dynamics of machines, are now striving to convert those institutions into what? Into universities. Because we have built a system that has glorified the BSc degree and glorified BSc degree ahead and above the HND or the OND degrees. And we find this even in the civil service. And I'm not going to mention any civil service, but I know that some law enforcement agencies have a different cadre and scope and arrangement for promoting those that are polytechnic graduates as against those that are university graduates. Well, I want to go straight to the solution, and I hope those I hope the Minister of Education actually will be listening at this point in time. I think the solution is very simple. We can not continue to proliferate degrees and hope that we can attain higher degrees of economic growth and development. I think what should actually be done with respect to this BSc HNE dichotomy is to see to it that those that are HNE graduates are maybe allowed to come back to their universities or go to the universities or from the same institutions from which they graduated, have another additional 1 year of internship or 1 year of intense scholarship, and they can now be awarded what we now call BTech. I think that is a level playing ground, and I think that is what will put an end to this discrimination.
But don't you think that that will further reinforce what the dichotomy is about? Now, you made reference to foreign countries and their export rates in Nigeria. These export rates, some of them were trained by vocational and technical institutions. They come over here, their heads, over those who have higher academic qualification. And I want to believe that the reason these companies place them over those with higher academic qualification is because in the field they play in, it is the technical expertise that is relevant. So it is not your paper that is speaking, it is what you can do. What technical expertise do you have? Now, coming back to Nigeria, does it necessarily mean that because someone has technical skill, technical knowledge, that person has to be awarded a paper that places him below someone with a higher or a perceived higher paper certification? Is that not a discouragement for those who want to get their hands dirty, in quotes? Looking at how much we need people to get their hands dirty and how the dirtiness has produced wealth and advantage for other countries.
Well, we can go on and on with deep reflections on this subject matter, but I think as a country, we have gotten to a point of strategic inflection where even the Minister of Education and members of the Green and the Red Chambers are beginning to think in the better direction for us, to deal with this quagmire and put a complete paid rest to it. But let's come back to the crux of what you have actually discussed. And it comes down to the quality of what is actually being gotten from the two ends and the two extremes of training. So whether you attended a university, like I did, or whether you attended a polytechnic, like some other persons did, right? The important thing is that you've gotten some form of training. You want to call it technical, you want to call it vocational. And for the most part, I think that those with degrees in Nigeria are also being discriminated because for the most part, they say, oh, those that went to universities only have theoretical knowledge. So those of us who went to universities, I'm sympathizing with our cohort because sometimes we're also discriminated against by saying, oh, those they just have theoretical knowledge, they don't have the technical knowledge. I think the most important thing with knowledge is the ability to apply it to solve basic problems of society. And that's why I've insisted that having degrees without pedigrees doesn't actually take Nigeria anywhere. And whether you have a diploma or have a degree, the important thing is what do you have to offer? And that is why the world is moving away from paper certifications now and from the normal, usual forms of education now. That's why we're shifting from the brick and mortar education to online education, and people are getting certified even from online courses and able to be productive. So the real question here is the productivity question. What can that individual, irrespective of whatever institution that you have attended, what are you bringing to the table in terms of solving solutions, in terms of value creation, in terms of value delivery, and in terms of value capturing? It is a systemic problem, and I can't particularly trace where we, started this problem, where we created this problem, because I'll give you a history of myself. When I was about to write my first joint admissions matriculation examinations, I think in 1993, about 32 years ago, the truth of the matter is that I was more inclined into going to a polytechnic than going to a university. Why was that? Because I wanted to be an accountant, because I had a cousin that read accountancy. All those things we did. We had big brothers that read this. We had uncles that work in CBN. Or what did they study? And the thinking then was that the best place to study for accounting or accountancy was a polytechnic. How did we shift from that kind of focus? Those that would want to study anything that has to do with machines will be told that the best way to study would be in a polytechnic or a college of technology. How did we shift to that focus? How did we shift from that focus, from that emphasis? So it is a systemic problem that we are facing. And
systemic problem indeed. Let me take you back to China. Systemic problem indeed. Let me get you back to China. Two things you have said, and I want just quickly to respond. The first is Chinese government has embraced secular economy. And of course, which of course across Europe and every other part of the world, a lot of people are embracing. The question is, why is it difficult for Africans really to work in that direction for a secular economy? Because when people think about secular economy in Africa today, we only look at recycling. Nobody look at sharing economy. Nobody look at product as a service. Nobody look at industrial symbiosis, where, of course, what is a waste in one industry becomes a raw material for another company. And therefore, companies are not cited contiguously to be able to make this flow. Because here, what we're talking about is competitiveness. There's a cultural factor here that is making it difficult for us to actually embrace wholly a secular economy. I can remember some years ago, I did a study for a particular telecom company, and I was asking them for asset sharing. And it was so strange to them. I said, why should we have to share our mass with another person? That's one. Number two, we're also seeing that in response to the tariffs the Trump tariffs against Chinese products, that China are trying to see how to incentivize their locals to be able to buy, and that, of course, will lead to increase in wage to address the issue of deflation. What do you think will be this implication for the Chinese economy in the coming year?
All right. You took the words out of my mouth, so I would say to an extent you're a pseudo-psychologist with respect to the first issue that has to do with secular economy and secular economics, and why most African countries cannot actually embrace that and allow the economies to be beneficiated by going secular or by adopting secularity. And what did you say? What I just said in my mind. Our culture as a people, our culture as Africans, you need not agree with me, but the culture and the culture that permeates into the critical institutional aspects of our society, from politics, from family life, to religion, and every other aspect of social institutions. Every kind of social institution that we find out is affected by our culture. And that culture has around it a foundation that is built on waste, which the Japanese call moda. From the way we even handle our budgets, from the way we actually distribute resources, from the way we actually explore resources. Look at what is happening in Niger Delta, for instance. So let's talk about secularity. Let's go to the Niger Delta. Look at what's happening there. Nigeria is not the only country with oil. Angola has oil. Do we find all these villages in Angola? Do we find all these villages in Saudi Arabia? Do we find them in Gulf countries? Does Shell, do some companies devastate, some exploration companies devastate the ecologies and the environment of other countries where they go to? But it happens in Nigeria, and we bait an eye and we just forget about it. And the chiefs and people just collect the money, collect their royalties, and move on. So we must have and address the issue of cultural reengineering and bring it to sit as a catalyst and foundation of our economics if we're going to be able to benefit from the dynamics of secularity and secular economics. Okay, let's come back to China and what China has done. And I've said China is diversifying its trade interests across different regions in the world. But much more than that, China realizes that there is actually no economic depression or economic recession as we speak globally. And so if there's a recession in certain countries, it's a pocket of individual countries that are actually experiencing recession. Now, what does recession do? Recession reduces the purchasing power parity of citizens and the purchasing power parities of a particular government. Nigeria has experienced some recession, but what we're experiencing now is not recession in economic terms. It's a result of the economic restructuring and economic reforms that we're actually undergoing, which may limit the extent to which government may spend and may want the individuals or the individuals to actually spend in terms of purchasing power parity. I sincerely doubt if the Chinese new economic strategy that focuses on dual circulation strategy, balancing what they've been able to achieve externally with and bringing that home to drive economic growth, stimulate economic demand, stimulate aggregate demand, and see to it that their citizens are buying what they also produce. I doubt if it may work. So what China is doing alongside that to counterbalance the possibilities or the probabilities that may not actually give them the 100% effect or the Pareto optimality effect that they hope to attain is to see to it that they are diversifying their interest and trade interest, import and export interest with other countries. Like you rightly said, now they're exporting beef, importing beef from countries like Brazil, and they'll be looking down to major countries in the global economic south to do more business with, to shift more aid and shift more investment in, so that they can have a valve with which they can actually escalate their resources outside the economy and maintain that economic growth and that economic balance. So what is on ground now is what in economics we call the good/bad paradox. It is a good thing, happening for China. It could also be bad, but it will be bad to the extent, it will be bad and paradoxical to the extent to which China is able to actually mobilize other countries to buy into the China strategy, to buy into new China relations, and to see to it and promote that public relations out there that China is not interested in becoming a neo-colonial power. Because the real question here is China a risk or is China a catalyst? Is China a risk to the growth of economies across the world, whether in the global north or global south, or can China be seen and said to be a catalyst for growth, especially for countries in the global economic south? And I will spotlight Nigeria in that direction and within the frame of that question. If to an extent, if we harness that relationship properly in Africa, we could see China, we could harness and appropriate China as a catalyst and see it less as a risk to our economic growth and to our economic independence going forward. So the issues of neocolonialism actually begs a lot of questions behind the intentions of China escalating its investments into different countries and in different sectors across different economies in and within the global economic south.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kenneth Ikenwa, who is a business and social policy expert. He's also a lecturer at University of Lagos. Thank you for the brilliant submissions made on the show today.
Always my pleasure. I hope to be with you in the studio soon.
We hope to have you in the studio very soon so that we can have more fiery, brilliant conversation on other issues. We're going to break, return with another issue for Discuss. Stay.
got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
Cocoa remains a significant cash crop in Nigeria, predominantly produced by small-scale farmers in the country's southwest region. Historically, cocoa served as a major source of foreign earnings until the 1970s, when the discovery of petroleum shifted the focus away from agriculture. Despite various challenges from its introduction in 1807 to the present, efforts by successive governments and the resilience of cocoa farmers have sustained its production. To better optimize productivity and ensure fair prices for farmers and high economic returns for the government, the Cocoa Marketing Board, CMB, was established in 1947. However, the goal was not totally achieved as pricing policy weren't favorable, discouraging farmers from producing export crops, and that eventually led to the board's abolition in 1986. This resulted in reduced yields and lower quality cocoa beans. Meanwhile, the millennium era witnessed a shift in farmers' focus towards more economically viable crops like oil palm due to the high cost and intensive care required for cocoa production. Cocoa production faces several obstacles, including limited access to fertilizers, unfavorable climate conditions, pest infestation, poor infrastructure, and land shortages. Also, herders' attacks on farmers have deterred farmers from expanding their farmlands. According to research, despite challenges, cocoa production has empowered many farmers and more stakeholders in the value chain, improving their living standards, enabling them to provide education for their children, cover medical expenses, and build better homes. Concerning the future of cocoa farming in Nigeria, there are mixed opinions among farmers. Some are hopeful that government reinvestment and addressing current challenges can revive the sector's past success. Others are pessimistic due to the persistent issues and the trend of farmers shifting to other crops. Regardless, hope remains for the sector. Solutions like improving land-labor relations, infrastructure, and financial support could revitalize cocoa production, reduce out migration, stabilize prices, and enhance value chain development, ultimately securing a brighter future for Nigerian cocoa farming and its stakeholders. Ojai Michael, reporting for Souq News.
Many thanks for staying tuned to the front burners. Let's look at what's playing out in the petroleum industry in Nigeria. So the Dangote refinery has announced suspension of sale of petroleum products to domestic markets, domestic marketers in Nigeria in Naira. What's going to be the implication of that? Before that happened, prior to that, there was according to NNPCL, the announcement of a renegotiation of the Naira for crude deal between NNPCL and domestic refineries, in this case, Dangote Refinery. So the initial Naira for crude deal that began in October is to end in the month of March. So the NNPCL says that they've opened renegotiation on that agreement, but Dangote now is coming up to say they are suspending the sales of petroleum products to domestic marketers in Nigeria in Naira, so that they do not have a mismatch between payment for crude and then revenue coming for the petroleum products. Doc.
Well, I think I can be qualified now to be called a prophet.
Okay.
Because you remember yesterday I was telling you that there are questions we are not asking in Nigeria. when you see we were selling petrol at 1,000 and buying with foreign exchange. And then, of course, now the dynamics has not changed. And we're seeing this price struggle and war. And that was just a precursor to the announcement that came that, of course, they're saying, look, we're selling crude to us in dollars, so we will also sell in dollars, because I was telling you, the challenge of this is the fact that you are going to see a situation where you are pushing the refiners to go to black market to go and source their dollars for importation. So where are they going to find this dollar? And don't forget, there's a lucrative market at the backyard. At the beginning of the week, we spoke about 8,000 petrol in Benin Republic. So we have to make our choice where we need to be. And I think this is where those who manages NNPC, like I insist, they need to be really queried by the government, because the rationale for some of the decisions that they are taking, they don't fit logic. They don't fit logic. And you know, in the triangle of trust, the drivers of trust, there are 3 legs to drivers of trust. I mentioned that on Monday. You have authenticity, you have logic, and then you have empathy. Now, on these 3 legs, you see that NNPCL has not done well. Yes, we have a challenge, and that is how to manage our macroeconomic difficulties, which we have passed through sometime because we are not earning so much money. So the arrangement was to see how we can do well, that I can walk into a bank and say, I need forex for a travel, and the bank can have to say to me. Up to now, that has not resolved. So common sense would have just suggested that, look, this arrangement of the naira for crude continue until we have excess of dollar in our environment before we can also be pushing that agenda. And number 2, at the time this agreement was reached, we're not even producing up to 1.5 million barrels. Now we are doing up to 1.8 million barrels. So why can't we sell part and move a lot of part? But of course, you know, in that conversation, they said, oh, our obligation to those who had paid for crude is up to 2030. And therefore, between now and 2030, now, but also look at it. By the time you were entering into that agreement, around 2022, 2023, we are not producing up to 1 million barrels per day. You see, there are a lot of things that these guys are not telling us. And I think it is the responsibility of the president to really call the group managing director of NNPC so that they can put the figures on the table and people can see what is happening. So, you can't ask a man to buy crude from you in dollar and then sell it to your people in naira. That would be unfair, because anybody who is coming to equity, his hands must be very clean. In this case, I don't think the hands of NNPC is clean.
So I think that NNPC has only lent credence to the speculations of those in some quarters that this is a fight. When they talked about renegotiating the crude for naira for crude deal, and then NNPC said it is not about any war or fight. It is just that they want to renegotiate and give all the many reasons because of how much of crude that you've sold in advance and all of that. Because NNPCL knew, of course, what would be the reaction of Dangote Refinery, what would be the consequence of renegotiating that agreement. If someone is buying in dollars, you don't expect the person to sell in naira, because you give the person more work to do trying to get forex to even pay you. And then it's really a mismatch, as Dangote Refinery had stated. So this inconsistency in policy, how do you start a policy? And then after 6 months, you say you want to renegotiate. What has changed that calls for a renegotiation of the deal? Do you want to review price upwards? Do you want to review price downwards? Does it necessarily need a suspension of the policy? How long do you need to renegotiate it? Now, by saying you want to renegotiate, did NNPCL not consider that they may actually be truncating the flow of ease of Dangote Refinery or other refineries that are coming up to have access to crude? and be able to sell. The market was experiencing some form of stability where we had begun to see price fluctuation reflecting the forces of reflecting market forces. But when we go back to this era of forex trade in Nigeria, which is even wrong in the first place, this is a country that has its legal tender, as Naira as legal tender, yet we are making trade in foreign currency. The excuse of, oh, we need forex for this, should some consideration, where is that? You know, when America is having protectionism, in Nigeria we're having the reverse. So we are thinking first of the external market than the domestic market at the detriment of Nigerians. Because what it means is that as Dangote reverts to selling crude in forex, expect that the prices of PMS would go up because the marketers are going to calculate the exchange rates. Expect that what has the sort of steadiness that we've seen in the forex market, because the pressure on the forex market has dropped, that will change. You're going to see more demand now for forex, which will mean that the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar would also increase. The naira would depreciate more against the dollar because you now have more demand for the dollar and less demand for the naira. So why are we having this inconsistency in policy and we are distorting growth? We are distorting improvement, all for selfish gain. Now, if the NNPCL had the refineries, their own refineries working, they would not be so bothered about Dangote refinery producing. The competition there would be fair. But right now, because the only advantage NNPCL has over Dangote refinery is to monopolize and make it difficult for Dangote refinery to have access to crude. But they also do not care, or let me say they forget, that the implication of that is that you are going to make access to PMS more expensive in Nigeria, more difficult, and then eroding totally the gains of the last 6 months.
Now, a few things. The Naira for crude exchange policy is one of the best policies. I don't know if it started in this administration or the previous administration adopted it as well. That I think it's one of the best policies. One of the reasons why I termed it as one of the best policies of the current administration is simple. The ambitious goals that this administration has set for itself is, to say the least, if this policy is defeated, it will never achieve those goals. The ambitious goal of setting the daily production 2 million barrels per day of crude for Nigeria, this administration will never get there if this policy is defeated. The ambition of trying to beat down inflation to about 15%, this administration will never get there, let alone before we start talking about the debt servicing, the budget deficit that we need to start working on. Now, the Naira for crude arrangement is a great plan. The reason why I said that is because it has enormous benefits for Nigerians and for the economy. Because I remember when Dangote was being interviewed by Bloomberg, and he said in Saudi Arabia, the culture or the mentality of the people why they have oil in that country is that, look, it is a free gift from God. And so therefore, you're not supposed to even tax the people. They're not supposed to experience some form of difficulty in accessing that particular product. And they're not supposed to be, going through the burden of trying to pay more for it, even though the government will defend itself that it's more expensive there compared to Nigeria. But in the case of Nigeria, one of the legs of this policy states that, look, for us to make sure that we beat down our dependence on forex and to strengthen it, the crude, we need to have local refineries and exchange Naira for crude for them. This will mean that about 40% will defeat our dependency on the dollar and 40%, and that means the reverse is also the case. We will strengthen the Naira about 40% when it comes to foreign exchange. That is one. Two, the ambition of meeting the 2 million barrels per day The Dangote refinery has the capacity of 650,000 barrels production per day. In October 2024, the government of Nigeria reached an agreement with Dangote refinery that, look, we are going to supply you 380,000 barrels for crude. However, as we move on to 2024, 2025, we are going to increase it to 450,000 barrels. Just a month different. In November 2024, Dangote refinery petroleum production, they started complaining that, look, the government has not been living up to date with regards to its own responsibility. We can't even, they are on part of the obligation to supply us 380,000 barrels per day. They are not meeting that obligations, and it is not good for business. In the midst of this, there is this fight in public domain, and the country wants to attain self-sufficiency when it comes to crude production in the country, and they looked at the operation of Dangote refinery and other local refineries in the country, and they think, okay, we can explore these options to make sure we start to attain at least to a specific level regards to self-sufficiency in crude. If this particular policy is defeated, that means the Naira that has been getting some form of strength by way of the Naira to crude exchange will begin to go back to the status quo, where the dollar will, at this moment in time, can move beyond the 1,500 Naira threshold and upwards. So, still in the same vein, what other benefit have we attained? Local production, like you rightly stated, we are beginning to get to some level of stability. And to the extent that Dangote is even exporting out of this country. But now, if the government completely rescinds its action in this Naira for crude, Dangote at the moment is beginning to buy from the United States of America, according to Bloomberg data. Dangote at the moment is beginning to contact Angola and Algeria. That means it's not going to purchasing from these climes with Naira. It's going to be purchasing from these climes with the dollar.
Yeah,
and if it does that, what will happen?
Yeah, but
the Naira will fall continuously.
Beyond what is going to happen, of course, we understand our peculiarity and our own situation. Yes, it's a private business, and of course, it can do business like any other person. That's acceptable. But of course, within the convenience of what is happening around. We also need to know, as an NPC, be able to actually position itself in, number one, to be able to supply the local market, that we are not going to be relying excessively, because, of course, this really necessarily may not have to lead to increase in pump price in the immediate, because there are two factors in here. Last week, it was reported that those who are bringing in petrol into the country, the landing cost has dropped. So competition is going to be there. So because the price of crude in the international market has also gone down. But you see, my own way of looking at it is the fact that can we have a way, just like you said earlier, American is protecting American business. Can those of us in government also be thinking how we can protect local industry and don't allow them to put money on the ground and they go into extinction? Not even minding that this was supposed to be an agreement initially between the government of Nigeria and Dangote in the first place. We were supposed to have 20% stake in that project.
It's now 7. It's no longer 20.
Yeah, but even 7 is something. That's a revenue to the country. That at least you have 7. Those who become chairman of companies, some of them have 10% stake in the company.
What even makes what makes someone the MD of a bank's board?
7% is a whole fortune, and we must look at it as part and parcel that we are part owner of this project, so we must not allow it to fall. And I think it's from that point really that we must be looking at what all this agreement is all about. But I'm also looking at, they also play the devil's advocate. We put this forward, and then, of course, because there's a lucrative market at the backyard. There's a lucrative market at the backyard, and you must not take that away from the calculation. So if there's a lucrative market in the backyard, and of course we must be looking into, you remember last week when the junta in Niger ate his humble pie and came to Nigeria to beg. Yes, of course. And what happened? They said, okay, let's give them 300 trucks.
Just like that.
So, and I think that must be from NNPCL. So,
just like
so these guys also are seeing opportunities in this market. So we can also exploit and do business and really make big money. At that place, nobody will be regulating what you are doing. The government need the product and they will buy it at a competitive price. So
don't you also think that if there is big markets outside of Nigeria now, Dangote Refinery may just be thinking it's more profitable for the refinery to sell outside of Nigeria.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they don't
we'll come back to the time when we experience scarcity and when we are left at the mercy of the petroleum importers.
Yeah, but because they know that you are going to take camera there and say Dangote is taking petrol to Niger, taking petrol to Cameroon. So they have to play the devil's advocate to tell you that, look, we are not buying crude in dollars, so we are going to sell in dollars. So if these local people are not bringing dollars, so we sell to the person who have
but they will be justified if you do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then they have offloaded their moral burden to say, oh, you are in Nigeria, you are supposed to be serving Nigerian public. So they're telling you right now, the Nigerian government agency is not serving us well. So that when we do what we are doing, don't cry or, that we are punishing and we are not representing ourselves very well. We're only responding to the things that we are saying. So this is, for me, where the NPCL, and it's just not NPCL, we have said this over time, that the biggest problem in Nigeria is how interagency synergy help to actually drive progress and prosperity. Now, what you're doing is that CBN is working hard to ensure that we have this thing in the market, and this is what NNPCL is doing here, because it's thinking as a revenue center, and therefore, we have to make our money irrespective of what CBN is doing. But that cannot drive us to progress. As long as we continue to operate in silos, we will remain where we are. But if we must move ahead, there must be a global policy that coordinates all these agencies of government. All the MDAs must come together to say, this is a focus, where we're going. So that if there is a kind of a roadblock that one agency is putting on the road of the other one, then, of course, the man who called the shot should be able to call people to order and tell them what to do in this particular situation so that we can have the best of society to live in.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Who is the Minister of Petroleum Resources? Is it Mr. President? If it's Mr. President, he is responsible.
Lokobori.
Yeah? Lokobri?
Yes.
Minister of State.
Is he not Minister of State? He's Minister of State.
Yes.
So,
but he takes orders.
He takes orders. So if the President is the Minister of Oil, Petroleum Resources, this is his responsibility. And please, we will not get our eyes off that. Mr. President, your ambitious goals, you are making policy to truncate these ambitious goals, sir. And you need to put things right and set the record straight. If Dangote succeeds with is going to bed with Algeria, with Angola, and with the United States of America, facilitating those transactions in dollars, he is not under obligation to make sure he sells that in Naira in Nigeria here. In fact, I believe Dangote is going to take over the market from the federal government to our neighbors, our contiguous states, including this Niger Republic we are talking about. And Niger Republic will want to look at it as a business, to want to deal with a private citizen the way it is than to deal with the government of Nigeria. So we must, Mr. President must take a very careful look at his policies. The Naira gaining its strength is just going to go back completely to the status quo. And the people are going to, no, we talked about issues,
but
we also talked about...
actually released a press release that it was actually not, because you see, this is a thing way. And I think what we're doing is see that the presidency attention must be drawn to this. That yes, they came out to say that no, that agreement cannot stop.
So but why is there no synergy between what
now NNPCL, which is supposed to be, you know, these are issues. I like our environment because there's so much specialty in terms of knowing how to blackmail people. So you say, okay, I'm not doing well because there's so much interruption from the presidency. We are supposed to be an independent body, but we are getting directives from Mr. President because this is a business. It's not an MDA for social service. We are supposed to be making profit. And That is where we should interrogate the intentions of those who are driving the project. But again, we cannot also remove political calculations away from some of the things that are happening. Since the days of Emefiele, we have seen people who hold very big institutions in Nigeria can be so emboldened to challenge the powers that be.
But I don't think we've gotten to that level. Maybe it's just, I'm not holding breath for the president. I'm just wanting to believe that perhaps the president is watching to see how this plays. But now that Dangote has come up with their position, Dangote Refinery has come up with a position saying that they would suspend sales of petroleum products in Naira, then it is now the responsibility of the president not to watch anymore, but to weigh in because of the consequences of these actions, what it would mean for Nigerian economy. We cannot be talking about reducing inflation. We cannot be talking about achieving growth. We cannot be talking about attracting investors or investment in Nigeria. We cannot be talking about ease of doing business, improving in Nigeria, when there are hurdles, there are policies that stand as hurdles against business progress in Nigeria. Let's not forget that the world is watching. Other business investors are watching. Licenses have been given to other companies to build refineries in Nigeria. They're watching too and seeing the Dangote refinery experience.
Yeah, but
and then you are building fear already. So it means that you need to have a lot of political strength. You need to have a lot of financial strength to be able to succeed owning, operating a refinery in Nigeria. With what NNPCL is doing, it is time NNPCL is called to order.
Yeah.
This is not business anymore.
No.
This is becoming something else.
See, we have to also look at a lot of all factors in this conversation. Don't forget that Dangote Refinery sued NNPCL for $100 billion for, is it million naira or so, for giving license for people to import fuel. This week, they just got a major breakthrough in that case, that the court said and ruled that NNPCL cannot raise an objection to the suits, rather that they should respond to the suits. And if they are not responding to the suit, that they will give them judgments. So that's what I'm saying. We are a nation that we know how to do plenty of blackmails. And these are the issues that we also must be very sensitive, because there are a lot of things on the table that are not as clear as they should be. But the point is that, yes, they don't want to, and that was why you remember he was accused of a monopolistic tendency. That the only reason why he's doing all of this is to see that to get monopoly, so that we don't play into a very dangerous
terrain. In this matter,
it becomes very difficult for us to pull out.
If you look at it that way.
So these are, for me, all the issues that must be looked at objectively. And I think Mr. President must be looking. And they are interested in this matter, that, of course, all the necessary suggestions that need to be made to the board to finally say, okay, we have ratified or not. That they said, of course, if you see it, that until the negotiation is over, because negotiation is going on. So what the means of those negotiations, Nigerians are yet to know, because nobody is speaking about the content of those negotiations.
It's a closed-door negotiation.
That is happening. But I think common sense suggests that NNPCL should extend naturally, even without negotiation, since the factors that were really aggravating the foreign exchange challenge in the market were all associated to fuel importation. So that we can reduce that pressure in the meantime and then leave the politics of all this conversation around.
Doc, let me respond to what you, the issue you raised regarding Dangote refinery filing a suit against NNPC for giving licenses to new petrol importers. So, there are two sides to this. One, the market has to be free and you need to allow competition. On the other hand, a country also needs to protect its own, protect indigenous companies. In this case, protect indigenous refineries. It just so happens that for now, the only operational private refinery in Nigeria is Dangote Refinery. Let's backtrack. During the time, the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, when he wanted to encourage rice farmers, there was a ban on rice importation, so that you are not asking people to put in their money into rice production. At the same time, you are allowing those who are importing foreign rice, choke them. And then the rice will come in maybe cheaper than the locally produced rice. You are making it difficult for them to thrive in business because the foreign rice producers have the advantage over them because of they have less cost of production. Now, if Dangote had filed a suit against NNPCL for awarding licenses or for giving licenses to other refineries, would have said, oh, you really want to monopolize the market. But this is fuel importers, petroleum importers. Should we be encouraging more importation when we should be encouraging more production?
Okay, so for me, in this specific issue is this. Sometimes when Doc mentioned that about the filing of the suit, I saw it yesterday that the obligation for the government to respond. I'm like, okay, well, that is good. Before an entry of a new player into that sector has been operating, and there are diverse players in that sector. The players in that sector that preceded the new entrant, you also have both local players and those who are purchasing the product from abroad, from outside the country. So your entry into that market does not give you the authority or the power by way of deal to stop the regulatory authority from giving you a preferential treatment.
It is not preferential.
No, I know. Where I'm heading is this. The government, when they said we are going to do Naira for crude arrangement, Dangote was not the only party. Other local refineries and modular refineries are also party to that arrangement. Dangote is just one of it, though we can say it's the biggest player because of the capacity.
The one producing for now.
Yes. So in that specific case, I'm looking out for those little players whom that specific policy, if we bring it to a halt, that is not going to be operational anymore. How are they going to survive to access Forex to purchase this product from abroad? And if they succeeded in doing that, monopoly is going to come in as well. Because if they are going to meet up that financial obligation to sell at a price that Nigerians will be willing to buy, they cannot contend with another very big player who has all the financial chest to both purchase it from abroad or source little of its product from internally, then sell at a price, using the price as an instrument in this particular time to beat the modular refineries completely out of business. We can say maybe in the government's own decision in want to nullify that, the local players are going to suffer the most. So I think it's best
now.
I think it's best.
Monopoly.
Yeah, the government, yes, it can be seen that way.
Again, if you look at it, because I try to put some of all these things in context.
The matter seems very dicey.
That is why you want and the interest that look, you don't play into the hands of.
Somebody somewhere must be laughing at what is happening right now.
But if this is a chess game,
somebody somewhere is laughing
played
right
by
now.
who we're not seeing.
Yeah, because I remember vividly when the delegation from the Catholic Conference of Bishops met with Mr. President. One of the jokes he threw at them was the fact that, don't you see the way NPC and Dangote, they are fighting, and Nigerians are benefiting? So you can imagine that, of course, that some benefits are actually coming in from here because the natural thing to do, our in-law says that the only language he love in the dictionary is tariff.
Who's that here? Donald Trump.
So the only language our in-law likes in the dictionary is tariff. So why do nations put tariff? To put tariff to say that when goods that are coming from outside enter into your country, they cannot compete with what is done locally. So the local should not be afraid because there are a lot that is involved. Because those who are bringing the petrol to you, they are going to ship it to your environment. So the cost of logistics for you is lower. So you can remain everly competitive. But in this case, you are looking at it from the point of view that, yes, you are getting crude from Nigeria. And I think that should be, even if you're going to buy it in dollar or pounds, buy it from Nigeria. You are not going to ship it. Now, the guy who is also buying crude, maybe in Angola or buying in America, is going to process it, but he's going to also ship it from that place to this point. The cost of transportation, because by the time it gets to the port here, you're also going to put it and rent some tank farm where you are going to offload these things. And from renting of tank farm, you are going to use all this thing. But you have access here locally that reduces your cost, that makes you to be as competitive as possible. That's what I'm saying.
Not so competitive because Dangote is also sourcing elsewhere. So he too is paying. I think the compensation or the relief for him is that he's getting some supply for Nigeria, but not all the supply.
Yeah, but you see, that's what I'm saying. But it's an added advantage for him that you are refining here and you are not paying two-way to take the crude, buy it there, bring it here. So, but what I'm emphasizing is the fact that, yes, there are a lot of issues that we also must have to be very careful. Like they say, if you want to kill a rat inside the pot, you have to be, especially earthen pot, you have to be careful so that you don't break the earthen pot while killing the rat. So these are the things that, yes, of course, those seat of power must also look at very critically to see, are there some element of blackmail here so that we understand how to deal with those blackmail and then we're able to move forward. But I say the problem, which fundamentally is not too good for us, is the fact that Shona here is not speaking enough. I think he should come to our studio so that he can have opportunity to explain to Nigeria and tell them what NNPC is actually doing. Because the communication is bland. People cannot understand what is being said.
And it leaves room for lots of speculation.
Yes, speculation.
When you have speculation,
so there should be
you
no
would have
speculation.
misinformation,
Yeah.
disinformation, which would just help to further the agenda of certain parties.
The thing is, no party is coming out with clean hands.
It is obvious that there's
more.
But
these people are talking.
There is more there. There is more than
course,
meets
like
the
this,
eye.
like they say, it is the person that is crying that attracts sympathy. You know, as a child. So when
I think you've been fiery on idioms.
A lot.
You need to explain it to
a lot. And I'm going to borrow one from him that if you want to kill the rat that is in the pot, the effing pot, you have to be careful so that you don't break the pot.
And first, it was a goat and salt.
Yes, that goat and salt got me really. So, Doc, in trying to kill the rat, and also ensure that the effing pot is not
safe, yeah.
So I think that what NNPCL should do is what works for all the local players.
Yes, I think so.
Because if in targeting...
They have to be nationalistic.
Yes.
Beyond profit and gain.
In targeting one player, you will break the pot.
Yes.
So if the Naira for crude deal is sustained, you are doing what is healthy for all the local players.
Yes.
Now, if you want to target one player, at the end of the day, you would have helped that one player because that one player has the financial muscle, the political muscle to match you whatever way you are coming. And who are those to suffer when two elephants fight?
It's the grass. Yeah.
The grass here is Nigerians. Nigerians will suffer for it.
We will not suffer going forward. So we will not allow elephants to fight.
Forex market will become unstable. We'll find that the Naira is depreciating. Inflation will rise. Forget about the rebasing. At the end of the day, that would mean nothing if we do not begin to look critically at policies that are implemented. It doesn't matter whether that policy is being made by one agency of government. The ripple effect will be so much that it becomes major at the end of the day. So I think that it's time for the president to watch clearly what NNPCL is doing, what is going on in the petroleum industry, what is behind that we are not seeing clearly. All of this should be investigated, and then what works for Nigeria as a nation should happen. If we learned nothing at all from Donald Trump, we should learn that protecting national interest is important. At the end of the day, what you're pursuing outside will begin to pursue you. Look at how other countries are beginning to talk with Donald Trump over the tariff hike. Okay, let's see what works. Let's see how we can have this.
Give us some time.
Thank you for acknowledging our in-laws.
All right. It is time for Post and Perspectives. You've said something about this or you have an opinion. Let's hear it on Post and Perspectives with Swift Aderito. Stay tuned.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of these and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
The National Theatre, Igomu, built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, Festac, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of a legendary contemporary Nigerian artist, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged Festac 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Experts Troll, a Bulgarian company mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theater complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, Souq Enlightenment.
I'm back again. Welcome. This is Post and Perspective. Basically, everything you say and how you respond to us means a lot to you. We want to say thank you for your comments and the fact that you listen to us and you take your time to give us feedback. And so we review these comments and we go right into it. My name is Swift Aderito, and this is what I love to do. So the first topic that was treated has to do with Senate moves to mandate social media offices in Nigeria. And the first person that came here is Jasper. Jasper, how you doing? Good morning. You say, I expected a bill that would establish technological incubant hubs all over the country with 24-hour supply. So we can also have people inventing social media platforms, etc. in Nigeria. Our journey is still long. We hope it won't be that long. And the next person is Dozier. Dozier, how you doing? You say, always looking for a way to engulf free speech into their sleeves. What has bloggers have to do with the hardships in the country? What intentions do you have that warrants physical offices? The country is such a mess. We are not getting this right. And of course, I want to pull up my brother in the Lord, Priye. How you doing? Okay. This has to do with social media. I know you are not a blogger, but you do have some bloggers in your life. What do you think about this, sir?
Okay, so for the social media, and how they want them to have physical offices in the country. I think it's a good deal, but it will not violate data like they insinuated. I think it's a good deal so that they can employ Nigerians. Imagine Facebook, Twitter, which is now X, yes, Instagram. Imagine them having big skyscraper offices in Lagos, in Delta State, in Edo State, and in Kano. Let Nigerians work there. Yes. And they can sponsor more Nigerians to go acquire more tech skills in the universities. And
but there's a part to it that you must also not forget is the fact that because these are offshore companies, you can actually not tax them. Yeah. They make money in your environment and they go to tax and pay the tax to their own country. And then, of course, we all lose out and we don't benefit from it. So what that also means is that if they have building here that represent their office, we can also collect part of the money they are making here. So and they don't ship all of them away from us. Yes. I think people must understand some of all these dynamics.
Well, the bloggers are just afraid, but we're here. And so, yes.
It will also give visibility to those who operate like WikiLeaks. So that when they release stories and names of people, we can know the address and staff of people working there and actually see, is this credible? Not as if people are releasing stories, names, making allegations as if they are ghosts.
Blessing, Jesse, when you looked at me, my blog is, everybody knows why. You looked my direction.
Because I saw
Okay, this one is FAAC distributes 15.26 trillion in African facade reforms. And the first person is Samuel. And Samuel says 15.26 trillion distributed or disbursed. And yet Nigerians see no real progress. Where did the money go, if you ask me? And the next person is Governor. And Governor says this FAAC's 15.26 trillion distribution are published. My question is, was it spent by the reviewers? Who is watching? Who is demanding accountability? Why are Nigerians not interested in asking questions? And of course, someone else, Okpayemi says, are many states still look ungoverned? With a question mark. It is well. Let's rush down to the next one, which is Dangote suspends sale of petroleum products to domestic markets. And the first person is Ken. Ken, how you doing? You say exchange rate is further worsened and fuel price to be increased further, Nigerians to suffer the brunt, while importers will be happy, and this is the status quo they have always wanted. The truth is a government that cannot prioritize the welfare of citizens is irresponsible. Supplying a certain quality of crude oil to Dangote is a no-brainer that will make the citizens praise the government. But no, these people look for themselves first and hope Nigerians will take it in and do nothing. This act will help Naira and keep the money in the pockets of Nigerians who are already suffocated by by the high prices of everything. The silence of the citizens have limits. We are close to a breaking point. And the next person is Mr. Bash, and Mr. Bash says this is not sensible at all for all the stakeholders involved in letting this succumb to this. So what is the essence of local refinery capacity if we do not get crude oil locally, and we have to sell to Nigerians in a way to make us depend on USD again? And Doctor, I want to ask you this question at this junction. What do you think about the statement? They're talking about the fact that why are they asking for USD when this is a local refinery, so we should have it supplied in Naira to Naira?
Well, I think in the first place, it was a favor to sell to Dangote in Naira because crude oil is priced in dollar. That was the special arrangement that was entered into. And that when that arrangement was signed, from the information we have on the space is the fact that it was initial 6 months.
Yes.
And after the 6 months, which of course terminate at the end of this month, then it has to be reviewed. So what is ongoing is the negotiation about the review. Otherwise, if it is not reviewed or the agreement is not extended, then of course, which means we have to go back to the status quo ante, which is selling to them in foreign currency, because Nigeria being signatory to OPEC determine how crude is sold, because it's an international commodity. It's not just a local commodity, and that is what is in here. And like I've said, cautious optimism, hopefully that, of course, common sense will prevail, and that's logic to see that government sit down with these people and ensure that nobody is exploiting the common man that is on the street, and we're getting the real value for our money. Because one, government is also needing a lot of foreign exchange in their hands, and the only source of foreign exchange to government at the moment is just this crude that we sell. So that if we have to also meet our obligation to our creditors and to pay them in dollars, then we have to earn dollars. So these are all the intricacies and the complexity around the conversation. So we're hopeful that at the end of the day, Nigerians will win.
Talking about Nigerians winning, guess what, guys? I need to leave you, but I'm not going to leave you alone. I'm going to leave you smiling, because I'm about to hand you over to the man who does it all and knows it all when it comes to sports. I call him Senator Souq, and he will be in the building shortly. Do not go anywhere.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January.
Hello and welcome to your time of the day where we talk money in sports. My name is Souq, John Rogers Souq, and this is Souq Sports. I'm still being given few minutes on the front burners. It's been burning fire. Yes, let's get straight to where we have to be. If you are above 18, open your ears. If you are less than 18, let's talk something that you should not hear. But hey, you play. God forgive you. Now let's talk sports betting. Yes, Endeavor Group will pay 225 million as they lose IMG Arena. As we speak, the betting and sports business is selling to their rival firm, Sports Trader. And this is the era of takeovers, and the bigger boys are taking over. Let's get straight to golf. Media Group Forestel, they've agreed to pay an additional fee, and this will give them exclusive rights to US Masters. Now, this particular competition for Australia is not going to be on free-to-air anymore. So if you want to watch like the big boys, pay like the big boys. Let's keep going. Olympics. Yes, for those that know, Bash is about leaving, and he is coming up to tell you my records. My records. I think that is what everybody should be talking about right now, even politicians. So in his record, he has told you that the International Olympic Committee, they've generated commercial revenue 7.7 billion. Now, this is between 2021 and 2024. Somebody please give them a round of applause. Now, for who will take over, this is a tall order, and you must surpass it. Now, he became the president in 2013, and the man is leaving. The man and his money. He made every single one of them. Now let's get to some things that concern every one of us. For those in media and those watching the media, TV, your conventional TV, as of February, has taken second base. So as we speak, TV is no longer the most watched screen for viewing, both for sports and for conventional production. Now, according to this particular February statistics, TV scored 44.4%, which means streaming from both YouTube and Netflix took over, and we don't see it coming above 44.4% next month. So for every of your sports and every of your thing that you seeing and buying and paying for, advertised through Souq News. We are streaming live 24/7. Let's get to football. Chelsea, congratulations. They've done it again. It's not transfer market open, but they've gone beyond and behind everybody to get Sporting double signatures, 62.4 million for Kwenda and Ezugo. So both will be joining Chelsea, one at the end of this season, the other at the end of next season after coming back from a loan. We'll say congratulations to them. It's good money movement, and we'll pray they sure of the team. My name is Souq, John Rogers Souq. We'll do this again tomorrow. Remember to pray for Super Eagles. They are playing tomorrow. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Have yourself a beautiful day.
Many thanks for being a part of the front burners today. We liked how you participated by commenting on the different issues that were discussed on the show today. It's not done for the entire week. We still have tomorrow, Friday. So it's going to be a special edition on Friday. We ask that you join the show 7 a.m. tomorrow so we can do better at our job of making change happen. Our blessing, AJ. I've been on the show with two great gentlemen, Dr. Dausa Osamanze and, of course, Onyipere Krumale. Let them say their goodbyes. Doc.
Oh, okay. Yes. And now I'm just going to go with the last word with what Souq said. The Super Eagles are playing tomorrow. Please win, please. Because if they don't, like we're done for the World Cup, maybe Souq will come and tell us a lot about that tomorrow. So please, we need them to win. Like he said, pray for them. Just do that.
Well, Idausa Osamanze is my name. Blessing has been hitting up the issues that shapes the economy. It's a great day. But a good shout out to Tosin Omogoye Samson on her birthday today. We wish you very well for all you do. We celebrate you. We're coming for the cake. We do see you again tomorrow, Friday.
Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. We are committed to driving sustainable growth and development across Africa through innovative training and research. Our mission: empowering leaders, policymakers, and professionals with the tools they need to create lasting change. With customized training, dynamic research programs, and study exchanges on leadership, management, and other critical development topics, ADSC offers a platform for exchanging cutting-edge ideas and global best practices. We provide comprehensive services in research and consultancy, capacity building and training, education programs, publishing and knowledge sharing. Our esteemed faculty, composed of seasoned experts and researchers, ensures a learning experience that is insightful and practical. We specialize in policy development, implementation strategies, monitoring, and evaluation. At ADSC, learning is engaging and enjoyable. Our unique methodology includes talks, interactive exercises, games, video screenings, and lively seminar discussions, all in a comfortable and friendly environment. Ready to make an impact? For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit us today at www.adstudycenter.com to explore our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
What keeps the heartbeat of a community alive? Is it the courage to create, the power to connect, the vision to transform? Well, it's all of this and more. It's a symphony of ideas, innovation, and industry. But where do these stories come alive? It's right here on The Isle, 104.9 FM, the station where dreams meet action and growth finds its voice. The Isle, 104.9. Business, economy, development. Stay tuned.
The much-anticipated Super Leader Conference kicked off with energy and enthusiasm in Lagos as the host, Apostle Success Haruna, delivered a transformative opening presentation. The conference, themed Leader Shift, brought together renowned speakers to redefine leadership and influence. The first speaker set the tone, emphasizing the essence of a super leader, one who communicates effectively, provides resources, recognizes both the strengths and weaknesses of others, and supports them rather than feeling insecure. He also highlighted team building as a critical component of leadership.
One of the factors is because our marriage is a beautiful marriage for 17 years. So we have been able to model what a good marriage is to the people. Speaking, I have up to 16 people, 14 to 16 people living in my house. It has been so from the day one of our marriage. They've never heard our voice. 17 years together as husband and wife. They've never seen us scream at each other. They've never seen us fight. They've never seen us argue, and they're hearing our voices outside. In 17 years of marriage, with the number, we have never had less than 10 people live with us from the day one of our marriage until this present moment. So what you model as a leader is easily communicated to your subject. That's where
The second speaker, Emeka Anslim, stressed that leadership is not about appointment or selection, but about direction. He illustrated this with an analogy.
You've created freedom to learn other things. See, now it's going to learn again while others teach. Then when he comes back on top again. Right? Transfer yourself in people so they can take up tasks for you. When you raise leaders, you gain far more people than you can ever imagine in this world. Raise leaders, transfer your values, your nature, your culture into people. This is so important. This is so important. One of the ways by which we become an effective leader. Productive.
produce people after your kind. That's what God even commanded. Produce people after what? Produce after what? Your kind.
According to him, effective leadership attracts followership by sustaining the interest of those who believe in and depend on a leader's vision. He emphasized vision, uniqueness, innovation, and creativity as core pillars of leadership. Adding a touch of humor and engagement, the third speaker, Ambassador Victor Walsh Oluwafemi, led participants in a brief exercise before moving into his presentation. He focused on leadership as influence, referencing key individuals who have impacted lives in diverse ways. He reminded participants that learning and education comes at a cost, making the convener's fee gesture invaluable.
And I grabbed that message as leadership is influence. Yeah. You can influence people either positively or negatively. And the question I ask people that what has been your influence? What have you been able to do in people's life? Are you able to influence them positively or negatively? Many of us do this a lot. The role of social media. That even as a leader, you need to be conscious of how you portray yourself on social media, right? That's why I went to that handsome man, Uncle Portable. Again, you know, social media has revolutionized leadership influence. However, it must be managed wisely. So we see some crazy set of very young boys, sorry for my language, and some will just come and say, I'm the coach.
Of influence. He also advised leaders to be strategic, particularly in the use of social media, emphasizing the importance of knowing when to.
The conference was amazing. Leadership was the real deal. You know, it was content-rich. All the speakers were very impactful. The points were, very, very valid and practicable. So it was a very big one for me. I'm so grateful that I'm here today. This is the best use of my time today.
I had to realize that to be a leader, a true leader, you have to show your followers what you want them to do. You share your vision with them and also do the work. Let them see what you're doing. They'll be able to replicate.
Basically, for me, is emotional intelligence in influence, in influencing people. So it's so profound for me, and I'm taking that back into my space.
The third speaker, he got to identify some types of leaders, and one of them was a transformational leader. That was really awesome. Like, I'd like to be a transformational leader, one that leads and then leave a mark when I'm gone. Yes.
And reassess. The conference wrapped up.
Well, you already know my name is Steve Omojafo, and my middle name is Bamidele. That was the name that my parents gave me at birth, because it was like they regarded themselves as not Lagosians. It is Providence that brought them into Lagos, and I then happened to be born here at Odo Street in Obalende. And in fact, we didn't go to Mercy Hospital then. There was a little home along Odo Street run by a very experienced nurse. Mama nurse, that's what so I was born in that little place and grew up from there. Like I said, my middle name is Bamidele. My parents probably said, well, we have had you here, but this is not home. As at that time, you will go home with us. No problem. So I started off as a Matthias Catholic primary school on Louis Street. And I was in St. Matthias from 1953 till 1960, when we finished with our primary school leaving certificate. Then from there, an extra year at Holy Cross School. We needed that extra, they call it prep class. Prepare yourself to go to the secondary school. And from Holy Cross, for 1 year, I moved on to St. Gregory's College, Lagos. Now, growing up in Lagos was one of the best things that happened to us then. Life was good, life was easy, life was safe, life was like everything that a young man could aspire to. We went to school with scholars bus, which was virtually provided for free. When scholars bus was not available, it was fun walking from Obalende, firstly to St. Matthias, and then from there to St. Gregory's College. Life was good, life was safe. You could go out any time of the day. You could play from house to house. Parents knew each other very well. And so, in fact, when you were late somewhere on your street or in your neighborhood, you could sleep there because they would send a message to your home that Dele is here, so don't bother. The next morning you wake up, have your bath, have breakfast, return to your home. There was this community life that we all lived. Parents could discipline children of their friends, okay? Not like these days, you dare not touch any other child. The parents will come and, do a battle with you that I didn't send my child to you to be flogged or to be beaten. So it was a very beautiful life. So went to St. Matthias, went to St. Gregory's College, and then from there to University of Lagos. We were brothers keepers. School was fun. Teachers were all there just to teach you. There was no messing around. There weren't any bad habits that people could be developing along the line, So that was my life growing up. So we were all walking through Balinde to Lafiaji, to Campus Square, to Tokunbo, Okekpokpo, So we were children of the neighborhood. We were children of the area. So I'm never ashamed to say I'm an area boy in Lafiaji. Today it has become a taboo, but then we were proud of our origin. We were proud of our place of birth, and we were proud growing up in the neighborhood. So today, still believe me, I get up on some Fridays, I just go to Lafiaji, I stay with the guys. Okay, not all of us were fortunate enough to go through the system. Okay, so those who, in quote, we left behind, we still, a lot of the time, we still talk to them. We still relate to them when there are problems that we could fix. We help out. Because, it wasn't their fortune to be able to have gone. I know some dropped out, on their own volition. But generally, we all like the idea of going to school, but some couldn't make it. But we still relate to them. We are still friends. So I'm not surprised I leave Holy Cross Cathedral and I just hear people call me my names. And I know these people are those who knew me when we were growing up. Yeah. Okay. Let me start by saying that even at secondary school, I read a lot. I was interested in the newspapers, and a lot of the time I read something, there was always this beautiful column of letters to the editor. So anything that I read that I liked, I sit down, 2-3 paragraphs letter to the editor to compliment what they've done, to criticize what I didn't like, and these things were published, and I liked it. Okay, you open the papers and you just see, oh, contributed by Steve Omojafor, or some will call me Bamidele Omojafor. So that kept me getting interested in the media. So when I left secondary school, after higher school, I would just pay a visit to Daily Times, which was in Tinubu, Kakawa Street. I just pay a visit there, you know, and I got talking to people. They would take me to the newsroom, you know, they would just show me how newspapers are produced and all that. That ignited my interest. So when I left higher school, mass communication was what occurred to me. I know that my uncle, you are not doing accountancy, you are not doing engineering, you're not doing medicine, you want to go and become a newspaper boy. I said, yes, this is where my interests lie. So I got admitted to Lagos University and studied mass communication there. And while I was there, I developed a column in Lagos Weekend of those days. Every Friday I was contributing. And I was writing under the name of Akinbodilon. Now, Akinbodilon itself is a name that I picked up in a drama group. Because we had a drama group that we produced all kinds of little plays here and there at Jekirandu Hall, you know. So one of the roles I played was Akinbodilon. So when I started writing my columns in Daily Times and Lagos Weekend, I just used that pen name, Akinbodilon. So I did the program and I started writing for Daily Times campus news, things that happened during elections, battle between the male and female, problems with the tutors and everything. So it became a very regular program. In fact, I inherited the program from late Golabo Ogusawo, you know, who was my boss in the Daily Times. So I did that program for 3 years. It became very popular. It got to a point, Vice Chancellor would call me to say, there's a little thing going on in the university. I hope you have covered it for your paper. And I said, I'm not even employed there. I'm just writing, you know. So I left University of Lagos, had all kinds of jobs that one could do, but I headed for Daily Times because I just had developed a path for myself, and that is journalism. Okay. So while in the Daily Times, worked with the Lagos Weekend, went to Daily Times proper and worked there. I was a columnist, I was a sub-editor, and also a reporter. Combined everything. So that was where my interest grew and grew, and it was very painful when I had to leave the Daily Times organization. And what did I go to? Linters advertising. When I walked into Linters and I said to the chairman managing director, and I said, I want a job. I said, just like that? I said, yes, sir. You know, then it was easy to communicate with people. We're not too many, so they listen to you. So he said, what are you doing now? I said, I'm a sub-editor at the Daily Times. So why are you coming into advertising. I want to broaden my space. I want to broaden my experiences. It took about 3 months, and I got a job in Lintas. And I remember Alhaji Babatunde Joseph, when I was going to leave, said, "Look, Steve, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to Lintas." I said, "Well, we do the same thing. They package programs commercially. Here we do our papers and we go sell, you know." So I said, "Okay, sir, let me just go gather some experience at Lintas." And Lintas and Daily Times were just 5 minutes walk from each other. And I said, "Sir, if the editor needs me for anything, trust me, I will